sont dit partout.
What's going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. We're back with another live stream. We are foolishly going against the State of the Union tonight, but I'm not expecting high numbers for that one.
Well, here's the thing, Andy. The State of the Union address is foolishly going against us because we've been doing this for how long?
I know, right? This is our time slot, all right? This is our time slot.
But Biden just kind of stumbled in, with his dementia-laden brain, and is going to tell us all about, the Ukraine and Russia. Come on, man.
This isn't the mall.
Yeah. God, I know. I already know. The State of the Union.
I know, and it's. It's hilarious because every president, at least since I can remember, has always started off with the State of the Union, declaring that the state of our union is strong. But it's like, can you honestly say? I know Biden can, but I'm just saying, would any rational person ever believe that statement? I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, it's not since Jimmy Carter has our country been weaker.
Yeah,
this is Jimmy Carter the Revenge, gas crisis.
Diplomatic incidences.
It's just
public relations nightmares.
Yeah.
Hey, who was the vice president under Jimmy Carter?
Was that Mondale?
Was it Mondale? The one that went up against
I need to
Reagan?
double check that real quick. I gotta double check that real quick. I think it might have been Mondale. Let me.
Okay. That might track because Mondale did make a run, but that was during Reagan's second.
Yeah, I was correct. Yeah, it was Walter Mondale.
Okay. Yeah, nobody remembers that guy.
Yeah. Well, he also got the shit kicked out of him by Reagan, wasn't it?
Yeah. For the second term.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll be very interesting, and I look forward to the highlights tomorrow.
I'm gonna be listening in on that stuff tomorrow too. But yeah, just our country, it's still strong, but we are the weakest we've been in a long time.
Yeah, at least in 2 generations.
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned.
Yeah. You won't get. I know a lot of streamers right now. They're the big ones like Crowder and Tim Pool, and they're all doing their reaction live streams. But and I know we did the debates.
That's different though.
Yeah, that's different. But that's because we're trying to see which candidates actually has a plan and coherent and not a mush brain idiot.
Yeah.
But this the State of the Union is just lies and just kind of and the spinning of lies. I don't need that in my brain. Although it would be a treat to try to see Joe Biden muddle through an hours long speech, and not what I'm really gonna miss is what I really would like to see is all the gaps. I just want to see a supercut of all the gaps that he makes.
It's gonna. I know he's gonna have his shit face where he's squinting really hard, trying to hold it in, but can't quite. it in face that he
Oh,
does.
yeah, I saw on Don Jr.'s Instagram, like he had the State of the Union bingo. It had like all of like kind of like all the Bidenisms, like yell like an old man, like squinty, like soft whisper. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
and then like he like randomly yells all of a sudden.
yeah, exactly. Like, old man yell. Um,
I have to say, like, actually, I find Don Jr.'s Twitter account very fascinating. It's very funny. I do find him kind of funny, especially when
yeah,
he's making
yeah.
some.
I generally enjoy Don Jr.'s Instagram feed. It's fun.
Yeah, especially
But
when he's making fun of Hunter and Joe Biden. It's always a blast.
yeah, I mean, just really quickly, it's such a tell because like if Don Jr. did half of the things that Hunter Biden or did or like had or like information has come out about him, like the media wouldn't shut up about him. That's
Yeah.
how you
Oh,
know that there's a double standard. And again, the old axiom, like if it wasn't for double standards, Democrats wouldn't have it.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but if you want a break from all of the propaganda and all like the spin, then this is the stream for you because I mean we're gonna we are gonna dip our toes into it, but we're gonna mostly stay away from a lot. We're gonna mostly stay away from politics.
We're gonna do our own thing.
Yeah, we're gonna do our own thing. Of course, as well as, along with the movie review that we do, every week. Since it is the first day of March, we are starting a new theme, and that's Martial Arts March.
Ooh yeah.
So we will be reviewing all sorts of great martial arts movies. Tonight we'll be reviewing a true classic. And arguably the movie that kind of reintroduced Jackie Chan to the world.
This is where Jackie Chan became Jackie Chan that we know and love today.
Right. Yeah, because I know early on in his career they were really trying to make him out to be like Bruce Lee 2.0.
And it just didn't work.
Yeah, but it just didn't work. It didn't work for like his training. Didn't work for his personality. It didn't play up to his own strengths. But Police Story, yeah, it definitely plays up to Jackie Chan's strengths.
I love this movie. It's so freaking good.
And so we will we will have that at the end of towards the end of the stream. But we will also be going over, still topical news items. I hope you guys enjoyed, your free, your what is it, your free trial of authoritarianism because it's about to be on its way out. But don't forget to to remove your email address from the mailer list because pretty soon I have a really good feeling that what is it? You're gonna get an email towards the end of this year, like winter time, asking whether or not you might want to try authoritarianism, or give authoritarianism another try. That is.
Yeah.
As well as we will be talking about the new Batman movie. Not necessarily, we're not big fish in the content creator review space, so we didn't get free tickets or we didn't get to go to the premiere or anything. But we will be talking about things that we're looking forward to in this movie, to the new Batman movie that's coming out, and just going by the trailers and kind of like the little behind the scene material that's been kind of leaking out. There's enough there, I think, to be excited about. And I actually just watched a review from one of the big reviewers on YouTube, Chris Stuckman, and he absolutely loved this movie.
Oh,
You
okay,
know,
that's pretty good.
and he had a lot of good things to say about it. So yeah, and I mean, and Robert's more excited about this movie. Not to say that I'm not looking forward to this movie, but Robert's really excited about this movie. So I'm gonna indulge him and allow him some time to talk about this movie.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Um,
Well,
but
where should we start, Andy? Should we recap our weeks, or what? Do you want to dive into the topics? Where do you want to go?
I don't know. I mean, was there anything like specifically noteworthy that you might want to share with the people about your weekend, or? Because
Well,
I don't have anything. So.
Oh, I spent most of my week working. I've actually had like one day off like in the last like 2 weeks, so it's been kind of exhausting on that front.
Mm-hmm.
So, but other than that, I've been kind of just working on the police story review. I've been watching a lot of interviews with and about Jackie Chan. I watched like his documentary he did about talking about how his stunt work goes. So that's pretty much been like my week. Is just kind of my week is I haven't been like watching a whole bunch of films. My focus this week was kind of on Police Story. But I've already watched the film probably about like 3 times. I've watched a lot of these interviews about him, interviews with Jackie Chan, and I've learned so much more that I didn't know about Jackie Chan. That actually, like I actually respect this guy a lot. Like what he has done for for film, like he's kind of like someone I think put it best, where it's like he's not necessarily like you're not watching Citizen Kane or Memento or anything. It's not this like transcendent cinema, but you're going. The genre that you're seeing is Jackie Chan. It's
Right.
formulaic.
Yeah. Jackie Chan's not he's not an auteur, but he is a craftsman.
Yeah, but we're not going to see like the deep lore of Police Story. No, we're going to watch Jackie Chan. And that's why we watch Rush Hour, why we watch God help you if you watch The Tuxedo. Well, I mean, you might watch that movie for 2 reasons: Jennifer Love Hewitt and Jackie Chan. It just happens to be a terrible movie.
Yeah, that was definitely on the downswing of his Western career.
But yeah, it's so I really like this guy, and yeah, I'm actually I want to. There's a few movies I found out about that I didn't know that there were actually many. I think there's like 7 Police Story movies, and I've actually heard they're all pretty decent. And then there's another one that I heard about that sounded really fun, which is essentially think of like Jackie Chan in like an Indiana Jones type of adventure, and that's Armor of God, which I kind of want to see that too. That sounds fun.
I think Operation Condor is also in that kind of same vein, because I think he finds like Nazi gold or something.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I just found a whole bunch of like Jackie Chan films that I want to watch. Yeah, that sounds fun. I haven't seen them yet, but that's so that was pretty much like my week was doing that, and then it's just like working kind of. Other than that, I really have not had time for much. It's my wife, she's been studying for her massage therapy stuff that she's doing, and then I've been at work and
yeah, but nobody cares about that.
Well, yeah, that's true. No.
Yeah. Another reason for your wife not to watch the stream.
She's never gonna watch it.
She's never gonna watch it. That's okay. That's why I can rag on your wife all that I want.
Well, that's true. It's funny. There are a few films where, like, if we ever like reviewed them, she actually has a lot to say on them, and it's like surprisingly like movies like Inception or Primal Fear or like White Chicks. She actually has like a lot to say about those movies, which I'm like kind of surprised because she's not necessarily she's not the most adept when it comes to, like, sometimes the movies get a little too complicated. So, it's like, whereas, like, you and I, we're able to kind of figure things out, or we allow the movie to kind of, like, we have questions.
Play out.
We let the movie play out, whereas, like, she'll be like, what's the point of this? Like, that's the point of the movie. You watch
it's like, who's that guy? What did he say? What did he say when I said, what did he say?
Dude, my wife is Homer Simpson.
Yeah, exactly. And there's your first Simpsons reference of the stream.
I'm gonna send her the clip of that from that episode. It's like, honey, this is you. This is what you do every goddamn movie.
Yeah, who's that guy? What did he say? What did he say when I say, what did he say? But, yeah, just like, it's funny. If you just watch the movie, it's like, it'll tell you everything you need to know.
Like, I kind of understand, like, in the case of, like, certain things, like, with the, surprisingly, when I showed her Primal Fear, her questions aren't like, oh, what's they doing? What does this person do? Her questions were more about, like, the American legal process. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, okay, that's something I'll explain, because that doesn't really give away the movie.
Right. That's
exactly how.
Yeah, being a foreigner or whatever.
How the court procedure was like.
Right.
But as far as, like, it was weird because in that one, she never asked me a question of, like, oh, what's this person doing?
Right. She doesn't ask you about, like, what the movie's about. She asks you aspects of the movie.
Yeah. She allowed the movie to play out. Mm-hmm. I was like, and when that happened, it was like, she enjoyed it, and it's like after she understood, like, the legal process, like, she was quiet the rest of the film. She just, like, watching it. She was, like, mesmerized by it. And then we end up, like, we talked like an hour and a half about some of our theories and, like, how that movie played out. I was so proud of her in that moment. It's like, see, this is what happens when, like, and it's an old movie, and it doesn't matter. See how good it is?
Right. All right.
Eventually, one of these days, I'll have to get her to watch, like, The Godfather or something.
Wow, yeah, if she could sit down and, like, watch The Godfather through and through, then that'd be a miracle. Especially since, like, I'm sure she'd consider it old. Like, even though, like, it was made in, like, the 70s. Like, and it's like harkening back, and it's harkening back to, like, even a much earlier time, like in the 40s, late 40s, early 50s.
Well, see, I have the Blu-ray, so I don't have to tell her the year it came out. Mm-hmm. I'll just tell her, it's like, this is a newer movie that is taking place in an older time. I'm not going to tell her the year it came out.
Well, I know. But, yeah, but, that might be another, but I know your wife, and, like, just knowing, like, when the movie came out, but then also, like, given the time era that it depicts, like that, those are definitely strikes against the movie, or against her, like, giving it a chance.
Though she did like Catch Me If You Can, which is set in a earlier time period.
Right, but, like, yeah, but it's a newer movie, and so, like, there's more modern filming techniques. So, like, you could tell, like, when, like, roughly. That you can tell that's a newer movie as opposed to, like, a 90s movie where it still looks kind of good, but where there's, like, still, like, some dating issues, like because, like, film grain and things like that.
Actually, I might try to get her to watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because I think that movie it's entertaining and it's also it's from the 70s, but like it doesn't. I just watched the 4K like remaster that they did not that long ago, and it looks great. It does not look like a movie from 1970. What, 7? I think is when it came out.
Yeah, late 70s.
But I'll get her. Well, I mean, she did watch Alien. Because I was telling her about like Aliens. It's like, well, you really should watch Alien first. You have like kind of the idea behind it, but now after she watched Aliens, like, nope, I'm not watching Aliens. It's too scary for me.
All right. Since we're I'm not gonna get into the movie review because that's safe for the end. But let's get into the Batman stuff.
Well, I just had to say that I'm super excited for the Batman, and it's I heard it when I heard that like Robert Pattinson was going to be Batman. This is before like I had seen like Tenet and stuff like that. Man, like like Twilight, but then I was like, I'm gonna give him a chance because when it was announced that Heath Ledger was gonna be Joker, I was like, the guy from like 10 Things I Hate About You and all those like rom-coms. I'm like, no way, he's gonna be terrible.
Although I will say, Knight's Tale is very underrated.
Yeah, okay. Like I said, I'm not saying that I didn't like his acting. I think he's a fun actor, but I was like, he's not.
I know, but like, yeah, but
Joker.
I'm just saying, like some of his more like commercial stuff, he still does a really good job because like in Knight's Tale, even though he's an Australian, he pulls off a British accent like perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But which then just goes to show you that he does know how to act.
Yeah, but I trust Christopher Nolan. It's like if Nolan is happy with Heath Ledger being the Joker, I'm okay with it. Like I trust Christopher Nolan. I really I love his movies, and it's like, okay, I trust him. And when his most recent film came out, Tenet, and he put Robert Pattinson in his film, was like, oh, okay, so this guy, Nolan sees something in him, and I actually started watching his stuff after Twilight, and he is a really good actor. I recently just finished watching The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, which is an insane movie. That might be something we might have to talk about at some point. It's the cinematography is amazing in that movie. And then just like the story has this like Shutter Island and The Shining kind of like mixed together. It's a really interesting movie that has, I think, a lot of like different theories that we could probably come up with on that one. And and when I started watching like interviews with Robert Pattinson, and first of all, I love the ones where he shits on Twilight. Like he's like, yeah, these movies suck. I was only in them for the, I during like all the press while I was in it, like I kind of kept my mouth shut, and then like once that was over and the check cleared, it's like, fuck these movies. It's like they're terrible. But now I have the money to do the projects that I want to do. I don't have to scramble for jobs. I can pick and choose. Like if I want to do an indie movie, I'm going to do that indie movie. Or if there's something that comes across my plate that I really want to do, I'll do it. And I also started watching a lot. I've seen like articles about him talking about Batman, and like the guy, Robert Pattinson, who's playing Batman, he's like, he really cares about Batman. He's talking about like, hey, I really, I'm using like, this particular, Batman, these particular Batman comics is kind of like my inspiration, and I really like to see like how, Batman like kind of goes through like these certain story arcs. You have Matt Reeves and him like kind of talking about how they're nerding out about like what they want to do with this Batman. I think it's going to be a trilogy about like where they want to go with it, how they're gonna play it. And unlike the case where like Nolan, I think because the Dark Knight was brilliant. It was so good, and by the time, although he had a 3-movie contract to do the Batman trilogy, Nolan was really tired after. He was like, I'm kind of done with this after the Dark Knight, and the Dark Knight Rises, while it's still really good, it's definitely like it doesn't have quite the same punch as the Dark Knight did, and that's because Nolan was not really into it. But I don't think that it's going to happen with this Matt Reeves version, because him and especially with like him and the main actor, they're so excited in what they want to do. I think we're going to get something really good out of this. So I'm really excited for that. I'm not so sure about how I feel about Zoe Kravitz being in here, because all the interviews I've seen her in, oh man, giving me Brie Larson vibes.
Yeah.
Maybe she was easier to work with than Brie Larson, but like the interviews that like she's in, God, she seems like such an insufferable bitch. I'm not digging the vibes of Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah. Just backing up real quickly with the Nolan stuff. Yeah, and it must have been. We're talking about Dark Knight Rises. It must have been hard or difficult because also with the death of Heath Ledger, I'm sure it's one of those. I think he did a good enough job, kind of getting around it, but it's like that universe. Like, why wouldn't the Joker have been part of like this whole revolution thing, or at least like some sort of element to the story? And
yeah, he was supposed to be a bigger part of it, and it didn't happen because
exactly. And so it's. And then at that time I'm sure he was because you could tell he poured his entire self into the Dark Knight, and so because he was contractually obligated to do the third one, and then also having one of not having all of the pieces that he would want to. I mean, a la Heath Ledger, it must have been really taxing for him.
And the fact that the Dark Knight Rises is like Christopher Nolan kind of half-assing it. It's still a fucking great movie.
Yeah, even his half-ass is better than the whole ass of some other director.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with that.
But I'm surprised that I'm surprised to hear that this will be a trilogy. I mean, only because the leadership at Warner Brothers has been so what's the word I'm looking for? It's that weird schizophrenic. There you go, schizophrenic. And it's partly due to all of it's partly to do with the leadership changes that happen so frequently there. So yeah, just hearing it that this is going to be a trilogy is really surprising. I thought it was going to be a standalone, and
I think initially it was supposed to be, but I've been hearing a lot where it's actually going to be a trilogy, because they're talking about stuff. They're already talking about what they're going to be doing for the second one. I think at least those are some of the articles I've read that
Well, hopefully it's one of those things where the executives are we're seeing the dailies, and they're getting really impressed by what they were seeing, and they just kind of greenlit a trilogy after that. At least that's because of the whole Corona shutdown and things like that, and change kind of upending the industry, particularly how people consume movies. I was really surprised that they would go with another franchise, especially after the debacle of the whole Justice League thing. But but then also watching the entire. I mean, we talked about this before, but watching and seeing like the full vision of Zack Snyder, like it actually got me excited for that universe, even though like you know the first kind of outing with like Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice was you know
That's something.
was not that
Yeah,
great. I mean the theatrical wasn't that great, but the Ultimate Edition with like the extra like 30 minutes did give a lot more context that the theatrical took out. Um,
right.
but the Zack Snyder vision of Justice League, all all 4 hours of it, really did make me excited for
I
that
was like,
universe.
man, like what could have been?
Yeah, what
It's
could have been?
and part of it was because there's in a very unfortunate tragedy in Zack Snyder's life.
Right.
That played a huge part in it, and I know like some people didn't like Man of Steel that much. I actually think yes, is it flawed? Absolutely, but there are elements in there that I'm like, this has the bones of a great movie. I really wish I would have loved to have seen more, um, stuff with like Jor-El and like the story of like Krypton, like and how that whole story. Because I thought Russell Crowe's Jor-El was that was cool, and like I thought that part of the story was good. Henry Cavill as Superman, amazing. He just looks like Superman. He's great.
Yeah, now talk about your perfect casting, and
Yeah,
yeah, and I would like to see that version, like the Zack Snyder version of Krypton. Like, I would love to see like a prequel movie. Even exploring like how they got to like the point where every kind of like an ant colony, like everyone like has like a specific job, and like everyone's like genetically predestined for like a specific job, and exactly like how they got to that point in their society. I would love to explore that because similar. I mean, not that we're at that point in our own society, but more and more like people are trying to like put people in like specific boxes and like depending on like on skin color or ethnic background or what have you. But it'd be a really interesting mirror to put up to our own reality.
yeah. The other part that I found with the Zack Snyder's Justice League is I like his vision for what Joker was supposed to be like, the Jared Leto Joker, because we get that little glimpse and it's like that would have been a great performance. I wanted more of that, not the shit that we got from Suicide Squad, which is
Right.
garbage.
Yeah. And
Which is
and again, just really quickly, what Zack Snyder was able to do is he made the Flash relevant. Like he wasn't like this. I mean, yes, he was still like this kind of awkward kid amongst like these titans, but he actually made him like important to the story and like gave him like an entire arc about about like him like being able to like reverse time, which then would set up perfectly for if and when they ever got to doing Flashpoint. I mean, I think they are now. Uh,
oh, man.
but
But like, who's doing it though? It's not going to be Zack Snyder or any
no,
other.
no, exactly. I mean, it's still going to be Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. But
Who I after watching the Zack Snyder cut, I was like, okay, I like this guy is okay. I like him. It's
right,
like,
yeah.
but
I mean, getting away from like the Josh Whedonification of Justice League. He was actually Flash was actually a bearable character, and he was like, and it like especially at towards the end of that scene where he had when they're able to activate the mother boxes and like he is like trying to reverse time. I found myself like rooting for this character, like as he was like moving so fast that he was able to like reverse time. I'm just like, wow.
we I think I showed you this thing on YouTube, like the Film Theory channel. They said like Warner Brothers doesn't have to, DC doesn't have to do anything. They don't have to change any movie. They don't have to go and retcon anything. All they have to do is like they can connect all this stuff like the Joss the Joss Whedon Justice League, the Zack Snyder cut, all that stuff. They can fit it in, but it hinges on if they do the Flashpoint movie correctly.
That's right.
And that video, if you guys are interested, check out like the Film Theory channel, and it's about like I think it's like how to fix the DC universe. It's a brilliant video. I was like, God, this is exactly what DC should do. Because it's I thought that was it's a brilliant way. They don't have to do anything. They can continue moving forward. But it's like the Flashpoint movie has to be done correctly. But and I'm kind of sad to get a Ben Affleck standalone movie as Batman, because I actually liked him as Batman. I thought he was pretty good.
Yes. And another YouTuber that I might recommend, Nerdstalgic. I believe that's the channel. But yeah, he gives like this really good essay about how Ben Affleck is the perfect Batman cast in the wrong movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I agree with him because, and I agree with that assessment because I remember when I watched, Batman versus Superman, like all the scenes when he was Bruce Wayne, it was like so perfect. You saw like when he's like looking at the Robin suit, and then like he's and then with like all like the Joker spray painting, and then he goes to the suit and he's like, it's like you see like that
the despair.
Yeah, exactly, like this despair, but also like that longing to almost like secret longing to be in that suit, because that's like the only way that he can express his like rage, because a point that the Nerdstalgic channel made was that this is a Batman that's been doing it for like 20 plus years, and there's like because what is it, like in the comic books and even in like the TAS, the animated series, like you see the Batcave and it's filled with like his trophies. But in this version of Batman, all you see is the one Robin costume, and that's like his monument to his failure.
Yeah.
So this is a broken Batman the Ben Affleck Batman. That's a broken Batman that we're seeing.
And I think this was like it was the Jason Todd version of Robin who was killed by the Joker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is, if you've ever read that comic arc, it's rough.
Yeah, that story is very brutal because like also like it goes really personal, especially for the character Jason Todd, because I believe it's his mother that like comes back into his life, but spoilers ahead. But what is it? She is coerced by the Joker, because for some reason he's able to find out his identity, and so uses her to draw him into a trap, and and then proceeds to basically beat him to death with a or close to death with a crowbar, and leave him in a building with explosives, and I think that was like probably one of like the best cliffhangers in comic books history, and then preceding it is allowing readers to vote on if Batman is able to save him in time, but Jason Todd is not one of the fondly remembered Robins. And so the readers voted for him to be killed off. Although interestingly enough, they do bring him back in probably one of the greatest ways possible, and like turn him into like an anti-hero. In the character of the Red Hood.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true. The well, here's the thing why I'm also with I would say although we never got a standalone Batman movie like that, I wish we would have gotten it in like the Snyder DC stuff. I actually think that portrayal of Batman was good. Obviously, Christian Bale is my favorite live action one, and I'm excited for this new one. But I mean, other than Adam West, who was doing exactly what he was kind of, they knew what they were doing. It was more of a action thing. Like it's kind of the campy.
Yeah, it was like they were doing a live action.
Yeah.
They were doing a live action comic book, and so yeah, Adam West
exactly.
he knew the score. He knew like what they wanted. So it was like, all right, I'm going to deliver what they want, a live action comic book strip, with full on with with the pow and the zing and the zaps.
And so the reason why like I because people are probably not going to like me for this, and it's the Batman came after that from 89 to I think it was 90. What was Batman and Robin coming out? That was 97. I think 96, 97.
97, 98.
Yeah. Batman 89 is okay. I don't like, but I don't hate it. Batman Returns. Yeah, Batman Returns is okay, and it's okay. Batman suck. They are, and they're all connected. This is how, because Tim Burton's second one was like, they asked him, it's like, you don't really want to do this, do you? Like, and he was off. He's like, no, because then he went off and did Nightmare Before Christmas, and then Joe took over. But it's still technically the Tim Burton Batman.
Tim Burton established universe. Yeah.
It's a mixture of this like campy and dark version of Batman, and it's just not good.
Well, I mean, here's the problem with, because like when Joel Schumacher took over, he inserted way too much color into this.
That's
I mean, and not to say that Tim Burton didn't have color, but his was toned correctly. It was still like, because like the Joker, you can't do a Joker with like, in black and white or whatever. You have to have like purples and greens and reds, but he did it correctly. He did it like in a very dark, like in a dark tone. As opposed to like, Joel Schumacher, where you have like the neon like flash of like the Riddler's green and like, like the neon fluorescent paint of like that street gang or whatever. It was just very jarring.
The other problem, Tim Burton, for like general comics, I just like, I kind of know the idea of Batman, so, and then I'm just gonna create my thing. It's like, oh, okay, that kind of shows. Now that I hear that, I'm like, God, that makes sense. Okay, it's like, and I think Schumacher was the same thing. Like, we get this ridiculous. Like, I mean, Val Kilmer was okay. Like, I actually don't like Batman. Chris O'Donnell could have been good as he's not. Actually, I'd say the best actor in Batman Forever was probably Nicole Kidman. It's like, in her characters.
He's always like, what's it like, Kyle. That's not really saying much, but.
God, it's Batman and Robin. I told myself this past week. That's what's
it doesn't matter, like, whether you watch shitty movies for pleasure. But
Batman and Robin is horrible. It's so bad. It's laughably bad. That's why I'm able to kind of like through it. I mean, Arnold kind of fills that movie with his stupid ice puns. It's
ice to see or chill.
It's like shit like that. I'm like, oh god. And then forever, like, Jones, who I love as an actor, is essentially trying to be the Joker, which is so ridiculous. And then you have Jim Carrey, who's also an actor that I like, and has done serious movies and done a good job at them. Little Miss Sunshine, was that what we did?
What?
Yeah, with him.
Oh, no, not Little Miss Sunshine of the Spotless.
I just Sunshine in the title. It's a movie. He's awesome in it.
Oh, but parenthetically, their connection to Sunshine because... yes, there is, because Steve Bell was in Almighty Jim Carrey.
Right. And Carrey does a good job in a lot of movies, and he was horrible. It was just Jim Carrey himself, and what the hell was he? Riddler, the Adam West version. He's a much better Riddler than Terry was. And
Right. He's still kind of like manic energy, but it was a lot more subdued.
yeah.
But I mean, could you imagine that they to get like the number one casting pick, Robin Williams?
Well, see, that would have been amazing because Robin Williams is.
Well, yeah, like the only difference, Robin Williams still like he does dramatic acting really well, and so
It's scary. His like 1 hour photo and Insomnia. Scary.
yeah.
Um,
But imagine if he went the same direction, like he was given the same direction as Jim Carrey, but it was just Robin Williams.
God,
I think it would have been better, but
that would have been several times better.
yeah.
Just him alone. And I wish they would have just given like Tommy Lee Jones like kind of be more. Now I'm thinking I can't do a role where Tommy Lee Jones is like sinister because he's usually the good guy in a way. He
plays a straight man a lot. But,
yeah, he's curmudgeonly, but he's not necessarily. I've never seen. I don't know a movie where he's the bad guy. This Batman Forever for sure. That's not. It felt.
Well, he played the villain. He played the villain in Under Siege.
Oh God, I forgot that.
Yeah. And he was at that was Lee Harvey Oswald's handler or something in JFK.
I haven't seen that movie.
Oh, okay.
But
he's like a villain, but like say like he was a bad guy.
Oh, I mean, I guess you could also say he was based off. I don't know if you watched this really horrible baseball called it's like biopic about the baseball player Ty Cobb, and it's all fake bullshit. Like,
stand by. The stream just cut out.
Oh, awesome!
Right. All right. I think we're okay. There we are back. Sorry about that.
Oh, awesome.
Apparently talking about Batman is a very sensitive topic on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's just Batman, Susan. All right, it's just Batman. But anyways.
Hey, we got a new Batman movie. I kind of want to talk about Batman. All right.
I know. But I think where we left off was we're shitting on the the Joel Schumacher. There you go, Joel Schumacher.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
I like Joel Schumacher films. Like he has a lot of good movies, but these Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are not good at all.
Yeah, I remember because I watched Batman. I watched Batman Forever, as a kid in the theater. So I remember liking it at the time. But watching, as an adult watching them, I was just like, how did I ever like this shit?
I didn't like it back then. What I did like, however, was the. I remember, this goes back to NASCAR, but I remember because when Joel Schumacher took over, and the reason why it was more colorful and fun, quote unquote fun, it was they had a tie-in promotion to like McDonald's and like. It was about like kind of like selling off like more toys and stuff.
Right.
But at the time, there was one of the race car drivers, Bill Elliott, who was sponsored by McDonald's. I had to say the Batman car that he drove for a couple of races that season, brilliant looking. It looked great. But other than that, I'm just like, yeah, the Val Kilmer was okay. Nicole Kidman probably stole the show, kind of, sort of. Jim Carrey is ridiculous. Tommy Lee Jones is not his normal Tommy Lee Jones self. This is just coming off of like The Fugitive, and just before like Men in Black comes out, and all the roles that we remember Tommy Lee Jones in, who that he's great in, and it's just. God, it just does not work at all. And Batman and Robin, like, just like, hey, double down. First of all, it's like Val Kilmer's like, oh, we don't need him anymore. Let's get this, like, this guy. Well, I think he was coming off of ER at that point, so he wasn't kind of the A-lister that we talked about this last week a little bit, but George Clooney has this A-list reputation, but like he's like a B-list celebrity. He's really not a great actor, but he's great in ensemble cast. But he's not a great lead.
Right? Yeah, he can't carry. Yeah, again, and I mentioned it in a previous stream, but yeah, what was it? George Clooney's A-Team, not James Bond.
Yeah. Now, and here's the thing: I don't really blame for actors and certain I don't blame them for taking the job. If it's not like a great movie, but you try your best and like you're kind of trying to do your thing. Hey, it happens. Like you're getting paid. You're doing your job, and it just doesn't come together well. It could be like bad editing. It could be bad writing. Maybe it's bad directing. Who knows? Or you get like the producers who get too involved and they try to mess with stuff, and it just there's a lot of factors, and usually for the most part, like it's not really the actor's fault unless like there are when there's these stories where it is like the actor kind of being a dick or has too many demands and it's just like everybody hates them and so on and so forth. But this is just not. You have you had Alicia Silverstone was coming off of like Clueless, which was a great movie. George Clooney's coming off of ER, where he's super popular. This is the second Chris O'Donnell movie. I know Chris O'Donnell has had, he's kind of developed a good TV career. He's on like CSI something or NCIS, one of those. I don't remember which one. So he's developed a decent TV career, but I can't name another movie Chris O'Donnell's been in since the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
and I think that,
they're trying to, God bless them. They were you're really trying to make Chris O'Donnell a thing. But I mean, he did, he did that movie with Al Pacino, Son of a Woman, and then he did that movie with Drew Barrymore.
I forgot. He's great in Son of a Woman. He's really good. He could have. Yeah. I forgot about that. That was I think that was his. Was that his first movie?
I don't think so.
I think that was his debut.
I don't think that was his debut, but it was like one of his first, like, kind of like where he shared the marquee with Al Pacino.
Yeah,
and then he did that.
Al Pacino really.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt, Al Pacino was like the star of the movie, but yeah, I mean, I think he did get second billing, which is especially at actor at his age, getting his name out there next to Al Pacino. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of a film that he was in after Batman and Robin. I can't think of one.
Yeah, and if it was like a really like small part, and then not to diss Chris O'Donnell, because that old actor's axiom: there are no small parts, only small actors.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I can't. Other than Batman and Robin, like, I cannot think of a Chris O'Donnell movie after that.
So, and then when we did finally get, and after that, it was like 10 years before we got another Batman movie, live action. And it was the best Batman movie I had ever seen. Batman Begins, and like that whole, then you get like The Dark Knight, which came very close to winning Best Picture. It got nominated, which is insane.
Yeah.
for a comic book movie to get to be nominated for Best Picture. I mean,
Yeah.
Marvel has had good movies, but it doesn't have Best Picture quality movies like The Dark Knight was.
Uh-huh.
And that's, I don't know how Christopher Nolan got tied into DC to do those movies, but I thank God that happened, because that just he took it to this other level that no one had done before, live action, and no one has reached that pinnacle since. I mean, I know we haven't really had a standalone Batman film since The Dark Knight Rises, but there's never really been. We've seen Batman, but we haven't actually had a standalone Batman movie since then. And I'm looking forward to this new Batman movie where we're finally gonna get a serious adaptation about the Riddler, who is one of my favorite villains in the comics. And I think I know they're talking about it's not gonna be in this movie, but they want to do stuff with a real good look at Mr. Freeze, not the Arnold Schwarzenegger bullshit Mr. Freeze.
Yeah,
But
TAS, the TAS
yeah,
equivalent, yeah. Because the animated series, they knocked it out of the park with
I love
the
that.
reimagining, of Mr. Freeze. Because the thing was they made it because before Mr. Freeze was this goofy kind of gimmicky third tier Batman villain. What kind of like how he was portrayed in Batman and Robin, kind of like this kind of cheesy, cliche, pun-driven kind of villain. But what the animated series did is, what is it? They gave him a really what is it? Humanizing backstory, like an origin story to how he got that way.
He has a background, and we feel for him and I think
that's the word I was looking for. Sympathetic character. They turned him into a sympathetic character because he wasn't, he wasn't being evil. It's kind of the idea of nobody thinks that they're the bad guy. Right. And so similarly, Mr. Freeze doesn't think he's the bad guy. He's just getting revenge. Because what is it he at least he believes that his wife is dead. He can no longer feel the warmth of the sun. He'll die if he's outside of sub-zero temperatures. And some of the best dialogue, it's almost Shakespearean. When you hear it, just when he's talking about his condition, it's oh, how I never will feel the warmth of your hand again, and all of this kind of contrasting kind of language where it's he's in perpetual cold, and of course a lot of times cold is also a reference to death. So he's saying I am dead. There's nothing in this world for me. I am dead. There's nothing. All I have, all of that. All that I have is my thirst for revenge, and that's the only and kind of in this really poetic way. He's saying after that's gone, I will truly be basically I'll truly be dead then, because that's all he's living for.
Right.
And it's just so well written and just so well conceived and executed. It's just I really do hope that they go. I mean, because that's kind of become the de facto origin story for Mr. Freeze, and that they even incorporated that in the Batman and Robin movie. But I think in the hands of a more competent director like Matt Reeves. Because I mean, shoot, the only other real credit that he has is Planet of the Apes, and I saw the Planet of the Apes movies, and he made me give a shit about monkeys.
That I had to say those those movies where I'm like, wait, I know this is not real, right? Like, these aren't real monkeys. Like, but like that mixture of CGI and real life. I mean, I was like, I was blown away. Um, and we've talked about those movies. They are fantastic, and I'm super excited to see what he's gonna do with like the Riddler. I think is the Penguin in this movie too. I don't
Yes,
remember. I've
and
heard
played by a nearly unrecognizable Colin Farrell.
Are you fucking kidding? That's Colin Farrell?
That's Colin Farrell.
Get the fuck out of here! No way!
Yeah, yeah,
I
absolutely.
did not know that.
Dude, I think Colin Farrell is. I think he's real. I think his real strength is character acting. And I know, early on his career, like they are trying to make him like the next next like leading man and stuff. But I don't think that's. I think um, they're trying to make him like like this again like this kind of superstar. Like, but I think I think he would do much better as like a Robert Duvall.
Yeah, kind of like. Well, yeah, I would get that. That's like not like
Yeah, and I mean that's not a diss. That's a
top,
compliment.
like, tier. Yeah, like
Robert Duvall's a really good character actor.
Yeah, because you want Robert Duvall in your movie if you can, because he's so good.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean like, and even though he's like a character actor or he plays like the side character, he's like he still brings it. He still kills it, and and like. I put him up there like in regards to like with like Anthony Hopkins and any A-lister you can name, like I equally give like props to Robert Duvall. I consider him like still like in that tier.
I would like to see. I hope like maybe like people see this performance and they're like, yeah, you know what? We need. I want Colin Farrell in my movie. I would like to see him like kind of come back and like do like some more like big stuff. Because I mean some of the movies that I've seen him in, I really do like Colin Farrell. I thought he was hilarious in Horrible Bosses.
Yeah,
and he has a range. He can do serious movies. He can do comedy. So he has a big range. He's not a bad actor at all. But yeah, no, I'm just super excited for this Batman movie. Of people on all sides, for the most part, are liking it. Like more of the people who are more base, and even like the people who are more like kind of the left leaning critics saying that like, yeah, this is a damn good movie. So this might be one of those movies that everyone's like, yeah, it's fucking great. Let's enjoy it. And I'm excited about watching it on Sunday. I'll probably talk about it a little bit without giving away too many spoilers. And yeah, I'm just excited for a new great Batman film with, and I like it's people that give a shit about it too. Like the articles I've read, interviews like Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson. I mean, they've become huge Batman nerds, which is great.
Yeah, I know. It's really funny because like all this like kind of this new material is coming out. I think it's strategic too because initially there was kind of like that dust up about Robert Pattinson not taking the role seriously. Saying like, oh, like yeah, I didn't work out, or like he's not he didn't take, or he's not keeping up with like the Batman bod. Because like filming was shut down early on. Like that's at the start of like all the Corona stuff. And so like a lot of fans were kind of upset with him, and they were like, oh, like he doesn't take this seriously, oh, and like kind of outraged, and the way people get outraged nowadays.
I really think because he just cares about Batman. It's not like he gained like 100 pounds, 50 to 100 pounds. He's not like out of shape. We're
Right.
gonna
He
get
didn't become a fat ass.
Yeah, he's still like in shape. It's just not like the insane like shape that like we see from like what Ben Affleck was in, or like early
Christian
on, like when he
Bale.
became Batman.
Yeah.
Or Christian Bale, or like Chris Pratt does with when he got into the Marvel universe. That's
Right.
fine, but like the guy's still like good looking. He's in good shape, just not like superhero shape. Which is fine. He is, and he's gonna be a really. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing his performance as Bruce Wayne.
Indeed. I think Chris Stuckman even highlighted his performance as Bruce Wayne as well, not just as Batman.
And if you're concerned about his acting ability, watch his non-Twilight career, and he's got quite a few movies actually. Like you said, we've touched on a few of them: Tenet, Lighthouse. There's a few other.
He was also in Harry Potter.
Was he?
Yeah, he played Cedric Diggory.
No shit. Oh, that's right. God, I forgot about that. That I actually need to go back and like to watch some of those movies.
It's funny because that's actually when I started watching Harry Potter movies.
He's a really good actor. He really is. And like you said, kind of like how people who shit on, and I was one of these. I shit on Heath Ledger. It's like he's not the Joker. Like he's not gonna be. This is gonna be terrible. But then I was like, okay, well, if Christopher Nolan believes in him, I'll give him a chance, and I'm glad I did. And the same thing here, where I'm like, well, I'm not too sure, but like, you know what? I didn't like Heath Ledger. I didn't think Heath Ledger was going to be good, and he was. So I think we're going to get a good Batman here.
All right.
And we ended up talking about Batman for an hour. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize we were going to talk that long about Batman.
Yeah, no, I mean, I expected it. But yeah,
I'm very passionate about Batman.
Yeah, I just wanted to get it all out of you. Because I know, because I'm trying to be aware at the time, because I know we're going to do Police Story 2, and I know you're going to have a lot to say about that too. So I wanted you to get all your Batman stuff out now, so we can get it, so there'll be enough time for Police Story.
All right.
So but anyways, yeah, going on to the second topic tonight, and besides, the second topic is really going to be, it shouldn't go that long, anyways. But yeah, we are on to the next narrative. We made allusions to it in a couple of streams back. But yeah, with this whole Ukraine thing kicking off, we have effectively seen the end of coronavirus or COVID-19, and you can see it just in like the headlines, just because this morning I saw, that the headlines that in unison, 3 states, California, Oregon, Washington, are all dropping their mask mandates.
And leftist states.
And like especially California with one of the harshest responses to COVID-19 or coronavirus.
From our lovely governor.
Patrick Bateman.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, like just this morning, I wake up and I check my news feed and stuff, and like one of the top stories is that in unison, three blue, very left-leaning states, California, Washington, Oregon, all dropped their indoor, mask mandates for everybody, unmasked, vaccinated, unvaccinated people, and by the 12th, like mid-March, they're going to drop it for school children. Yeah, so and I kind of called it, and I don't want to say prediction, but I what's another good word instead of predictions? I
It's
forecasted.
tomorrow's news today.
I forecasted this. Although because of the Ukraine thing popping off, like the timeline has moved up exponentially. Because how the timeline I foresaw was that they would have dropped all mask mandates by summer, and then by late fall, just before the election, they would have dropped like the vax passes. But just be sure, be careful because they're dropping the mask mandates, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to drop the vaccine passports. But given the nature of how they they moved up the timeline on it, I do suspect that they will be dropping vax passes soon as well.
Okay, maybe that. Well, I mean, it's like okay, well, about time, but it's just like it's. I sent you some. I was talking to you about this like earlier, where it's like there's this great comedy bit by Alonzo Bowden.
Mm-hmm.
This is like 10 years ago maybe, but it's like he did this whole bit like who's paying attention, and it's like about how all these like there's always like these super crazy diseases or whatever, and it's the worst thing that's ever happened. We're all gonna die, and it's like about like swine flu. It's like it's the worst thing that's ever happened in the planet. We're all gonna die, but you'll be okay if you wash your hands. And it's like, well, wait a second. It's like, yeah, you can kiss a pig as long as you wash your hands. Well, then how are we all gonna die from that? It's like, or like, oh, SARS. It's the worst thing that's ever. It's the greatest pandemic that's ever happened. We're all gonna die, and or it was like, well, I can't worry too much about that because I'm so worried about like Y2K or like all these other like crazy people go fucking nuts over, and it's like, no. It's like, yeah, are these, I'm not saying that they're not real things, that like that there weren't like people that got sick from them or like that there weren't like side effects, but it's like this thing is not unique. If anything, well, I mean, these last like big diseases like swine flu, SARS, bird flu, all from China, but it's
although swine flu actually came from Mexico.
Was it from Mexico?
Yeah,
I thought it was from China.
it actually was from like a swine, like a pig processing plant or something. So that's kind of true, but it's not like this new like disease or whatever. It's just like the water like that the pigs were drinking was like polluted by some like other like factory or something. I don't remember the details like too much.
Polluted in Mexico. I color me surprised.
Right? Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah, but it was just like this, like and so. Yeah, the government didn't want to like take responsibility over, so like they said like, oh, it's this new disease instead of just like this kind of like like pigs, like just pigs getting like the runs or whatever.
It's like, oh Jesus. Well, it's funny because this is kind of like the same idea. We haven't watched it together, or we definitely haven't reviewed it. But the movie HUD with Paul Newman, which is a movie that we're going to talk about one day. There's this scene like where the government comes and like they inspect like all the cattle on because like one of like the horses or like the cow or no one of the cows gets sick, and they bring in the government to allow them to like inspect all the cattle, and of course like, oh, your entire thing is they're infected and they all have to be killed. And it's like, and Paul Newman is infuriated. It's like, yeah, of course they're gonna, the government's like, they don't really want us to, like, they're gonna find like, oh, what they have like the sniffles, is a big fucking deal. Like, it's like, people, animals get sick too. It's like, now it's like we've lost everything. So, good job. Of course they're gonna find out that like they're gonna tell you to destroy everything.
And just be careful, because like they're never gonna apologize. And even if they're forced to address like all of like the wrongness of all their actions, they'll default to the refrain of, oh, like, how could we have known? It's like, bitch, we've been saying it from the very beginning. It's like, yes, we should treat, we should, common sense measures is just, wash your hands, regularly. There you go. That's all you needed to do. Wash your hands regularly. But like, yeah, they'll, so they'll never face consequences, and they'll never take responsibility for it, And again, like the refrain will be like, oh, how could we have known? But
the science is changing.
Yeah, the science is ever changing. It's like, oh, except for when it has a consensus, except for when it changes, but only when it like, but only in cases of, when we have a consensus.
95% of scientists agree that climate change is happening, but the science is changing.
I know, right? Exactly.
So what is it?
Exactly.
Is it changing, or is there consensus? I know a lot of scientists and physicists, or people who are in the science community who are essentially excommunicated when they differ from the science. At the end of it.
Yeah. There's science, and then there's the science TM. And like the last 2 years, what we're witnessing was the science TM. And again, yeah, like I think Aaron Rodgers had the best take on it, which was, if it can't be questioned, then it's not science, it's propaganda.
Exactly. Like there was more of like an open dialogue, and it's like where we have a variety of scientists who are, okay, they're in the same field, but like, they're doing separate research projects, and like, hey, we found out like this information from our tests that we did, and this is data that we collected. This is our group. This is what we're going on. These are all our findings. And oh, this group over here in this country did this. Another group of scientists in that country did that. And then we accumulated it all together. And somewhere in there is like they collect all that data, and it's like, hey, you know what? There's a pattern here. Maybe that's where we're starting to find stuff. And it's like, if that was happening, I'd be like, okay, I think that's pretty believable. But no, like when you have, essentially, like, you have our beloved Dr. Fauci, who's claiming himself as being the science, and if you question him, you're going against science. It's like, okay, I call bullshit.
Yeah, just like any dictator in history, it's like, oh, if you question me, you're questioning your countrymen, or your country, and and how is that not the same thing? What Fauci said, like, oh, when you question me, you're questioning the science. It's like, motherfucker, you're not the king of it.
What an insufferable lying piece of shit.
Yeah, no. If AIDS was real, I definitely want to infect him with it. Of course, of course, if he was here and I knowingly infected him with AIDS, it wouldn't be a crime.
He has not been a doctor in almost 45 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he hasn't been a clinical doctor. He hasn't been a clinical doctor. Yeah, he still has the piece of paper, but he has not seen one patient in 40 plus years.
He's been in that position since I think 1980.
Since Reagan. Reagan was the one that installed him. We brought it up. He's lasted over like 9 presidents or whatever.
So Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden. Eight presidents.
Close.
This guy has been in office for 8 presidents. He's gotten everything wrong. He hasn't practiced real doctoring for 8 presidents. Let that sink in.
Don't burn your mask just yet, because I'm sure that by next winter, we're gonna see a surge or some new disease, and they're gonna say, oh, it's back, or oh, it's become this new thing. It's like extra mega super COVID-19, and so we have to lock everything down. We have to mask up again.
Jordan, it almost seems like what's the time usually? Oh, isn't that usually flu season?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like, it's like, what was, what's that, what's winter called colloquially? Like cold and flu season. It's like, he's like, we know that, that people are more prone to getting like sick during, winter months. But it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, oh no, it's like, this is the first time that's ever happened. People are so fucking stupid. Like, it pisses me off sometimes.
It's gonna be the Megatron variant. Like, it's a super duper scary variant that's gonna kill everybody, and like everyone's gonna die, and it's the worst pandemic on earth.
It's gonna be the Voltron variant, because like all the other variants, like the Alpha, the Delta, the Omicron, the Mu, they're all gonna combine to make the Voltron variant.
Or the Unicron variant.
Yeah. But yeah, again, I'm not making predictions. I'm forecasting. Kind of like the weatherman. He's like, the best kind of guess. The winter, the next winter, they're gonna like say that, oh, like it's back, or there's gonna be some new thing, and like we have to like lock down again. That's gonna happen for sure.
It's tomorrow's news today, Andy.
Yeah, that's gonna happen for sure. Yeah, the mask stuff and like the mandates, yeah, that's gonna go away, at least for now. But you've been warned. All right, I'm not making any hard predictions. I'm forecasting with the given information, because like this, the whole Ukraine stuff, that moved up the timeline, because they knew that Corona was gonna be a loser. And so, they weren't going to be able to sustain it for very long. And so luckily for them, this Ukraine stuff popped off, because now that they can move along the timeline, there's people are going to be distracted by this new thing. And it's almost scary to see like how quickly people like have adjusted to the new programming, because it's like they're like, oh, wear your mask, you trying to kill grandma, to like, oh, we have stand with Ukraine, oh, hashtag Ukraine strong, or hashtag ghost of Kiev, and and like and all the buildings lit up with the colors of the Ukrainian flag. And it's just like, you guys are a bunch of fucking morons.
I listen. Do I like Russia? No. Do I care about Ukraine? Not really.
Right,
I'm
yeah,
sorry,
you
not
know,
really.
my heart is with the people, not the fucking government.
One of the most greatest history of the world. Oh, yeah, it's like, okay, you know, I feel bad for the people that are there, but in reality, like, I really don't give a shit about Ukraine. In fact, I actually I'm a little bit more concerned about my own country, where inflation is become a huge fucking issue. We have not a real gas crisis, but a manufactured one because we have a feckless government. And the reason there's even really a Russia-Ukraine problem to begin with is because we have a feckless government that decided like, oh, the stuff that Trump was doing was working, but like, fuck that because it was Trump, so we're gonna just
Right, yeah, because they could,
reverse
yeah,
everything that happened there.
yeah, Biden capriciously reversed all of the executive orders that that Trump put into place, yeah, for no reason, literally no reason. He didn't take like 3 seconds to be like, okay, which ones are good, which ones are bad. It's like, nope, because they're Trump, they all have to be reversed. Like, I'm sure, like, if there was a
But then,
one, I'm sure if there was a one saying that that prevented like Nazis from rising up, he would still reverse that, allow like a Nazi party to form.
but in our own country, we have a border crisis, we have a manufactured
Yeah,
inflation
we have
and
supply line
gas
issues.
because once again, that's also manufactured because that can be corrected today, but because of their stupid policies that have like, well, we had to have the social distancing, we had to, it's like, it's ridiculous. We have a education crisis that is going on, and yeah, a lot of
Hilariously, really quick. Um, because there's reports that Russia was like marshaling their or mobilizing their nuclear arsenal. The FEMA updated its what is it shelter protocols, and they took COVID into account. So now when you're hunkering down in your fallout shelter or your bomb shelter, you have to remember to wear your mask and maintain social distancing. And I wish that was a joke. But just like I think yesterday they put out a press release saying as much. Um,
but they yeah, it's like it's stuff like that where I'm like, okay.
I know, but it's like so fucking stupid because like let's say like because that you're essentially saying that you can't like let's say you have a bomb shelter, a fallout shelter with a capacity of like 300 people, then you have to cut that in half to accommodate the social distancing.
Yeah.
Well, that's like fucking retarded. And like
Yeah.
also like it's like I forget who said it, but it was a great point. Like when the FEMA comes to your bomb shelter, fallout shelter, are they gonna come only in a mask? No, of course not. They're gonna come in fucking radiation suits.
Yep.
You think some fucking piece of paper or like piece of cloth with your mouth is gonna? I mean, again, like I'm not fully sold on nuclear weapons, but you think like a piece of paper or a cloth is over your mouth, like with gaps in it, is gonna do anything against like ionized radioactive particles?
Now I'm not
Come the
saying that
fuck on.
nuclear weapons are not like extremely powerful weapons because they are.
That's what I'm saying.
More.
I'm saying that there's no such thing as nuclear weapons.
No, but I'm saying, like, as far as like the power behind them is very strong. But I don't know about you, but are Hiroshima and Nagasaki are they still like nuclear fallout places that are like
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
completely
no,
inhabitable?
exactly. Yeah,
Oh, that's right. They are extremely large, bustling cities that are larger and bigger and better than they were in 1945. And
yeah,
Chernobyl is
and
one of the greatest in the entire world.
yeah, and just as a just as a note, the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki re-inhabited those cities immediately. Like next day they
19
the next day they re-inhabited the city. They didn't
cities were built within like
they're rebuilt within 5 years. What about all those kids born with that uh, that that birth defect thing where that's from that's actually from like mercury poisoning or something, and not just because of not from the fish, but like
yeah.
something like there's some sort of like heavy metal poisoning. I forget what it's called, but that's what that was. That wasn't the
Yeah.
result of radiation sickness or whatever.
It's funny because I watch a lot of old Japanese movies that were like pre and post war,
Mm-hmm.
especially Cavill films, and you look at the movie like Angel and like the city that they're in, which is pretty typical of like a lot of cities back in like that time period, where you have all these like a lot of these like tepid like standing water pools that are in cities, and it's a lot of these like semi shanty towns, and there's tuberculosis, there is rheumatism, there's um, a lot of these other like diseases that are going around because of the conditions, and like it's not necessarily like at that time it was a defeated, bombed out country that didn't have like a lot of a lot of stuff happening for it. So yeah, there was a lot of these conditions, and like the water wasn't that good, the food supply was not that great, they were rationing, uh, and we just talked about one wonderful Sunday where had they decided to like move into the apartment, there's all these problems that they have. There's not enough sunlight. You're gonna have these problems. You're gonna get all these like health defects. So it's like it makes sense that like like they blame it on like nuclear nuclear issues, but it's like now would have happened without that stuff. The fact that like stuff is growing like a week after everything, because the national like flower plant for Hiroshima is the first plant that grew like 5 days, it started growing 5 days after everything happened.
Yeah, I mean,
Did it
was
completely
it?
destroy the city with a super powerful missile? Of course it was. And did like the people that were like that hit by it were completely vaporized? Yes, sir. No, I'm not. Of course they were, but that doesn't mean that like they're believing that like, this city won't be able to be occupied for 75 years. The city didn't just start growing 5 years ago because it's what we're 70. We're at that point now, but the city started growing. It was rebuilt after like 5 years, and it's been growing. It's now it's to the point where it's like I think at the time it was bombed, it was like maybe like 400,000 people. It's over 2 million people in population now. It's insane.
Yeah, not to mention that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were rated as seventh and like ninth worst bombings. And interestingly,
You
and, it,
could live.
and interestingly again, the Japanese didn't surrender for like another month until Russia invaded Manchuria.
And then we like also bombed Nagasaki too. Like, okay, we're done. It's
No, but even after Nagasaki, they didn't surrender for like another week. That until they got word that the Russian army had invaded into Manchuria, and like by then it was like they knew like, oh, it's over.
I did not know that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's yeah. So again, like what I'm saying shouldn't be controversial or whatever. It should be freeing. It's like you now know that there's no such thing as nuclear weapons. There's nothing that could like vaporize you and turn you into a silhouette on a wall. That I mean, to me, that's just one more thing that should be relieved about.
I consider them like that. They are more powerful bombs, essentially. Like, I mean, they're very powerful. They burn super hot, but it's not like you're gonna have like the video game franchise like the Fallout series where a nuclear bomb goes off and everything is just like completely obliterated for 100 years. It's just not the case. Or in the
but again, that's like kind of going back to like the main point, but like it's like about narratives and how they constantly change. Yeah, like those like nuclear bombs was a narrative. Like people like literally dug like fallout or bomb shelters in their backyards or converted their basements into one, and they like there are like a bunch of bomb shelters like in the around this country that went unused.
I mean, sure. Do I want to be on the surface when a nuclear missile strikes? No, obviously not, because that would be good. But would I rather be in a bomb shelter when one of those goes off? Absolutely. But do I think that like the land will never be inhabitable ever again? Well, like these three big examples of like the three largest like nuclear disasters, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Chernobyl, they aren't wastelands.
Yeah, even Fukushima, even in, like more recently, Fukushima. Like there've been no like all the vegetation around like Fukushima didn't die. None. There's like been no like mass there was no mass like kill off of like animals in the area.
And I'm not saying that there's like zero danger at all. I'm not saying that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like the like exposure, like raw exposure, like some of the like plutonium or like nuclear stuff. Like I don't think that there's like zero harm from that. But like the fact that like the land is completely uninhabitable, like no one can go there anymore, and it'll never be recovered in our lifetime. It's like, well, there's three fucking examples of like the biggest nuclear disasters of in history, and two cities that were decimated and are bigger than they ever were, and you have Chernobyl, which is becoming one of the biggest nature preserves in the world.
Yeah, and that's how you know that this Ukraine stuff was a spell, because like one of the first places that they took over was Chernobyl. And that's tied. There's a lot of emotion tied to that. Even though like they decommissioned Chernobyl in like 2004. Like there was no like active there wasn't any hot uranium or like radioactive materials on site. But they just said like, oh yeah, they took over the Chernobyl power plant or whatever. It's like that was decommissioned again over like what is it now?
60 years ago?
15? Or no, it was active up until 2004.
Wait. It was active as of
Well,
2004?
not necessarily as like a power plant, but it was still somewhat active up until 2004. Yeah, I think they shut down the reactors like in 2004.
What?
Yeah, look, you could look it up.
I thought that they like deactivated it after the whole disaster. That was like what,
No.
50, 60 years ago?
Mm-mm.
What? What?
Yeah, and you can like, I don't care. You guys can fact check me on this.
What? Oh my god, this
Yeah, it's like almost 20 years ago. Yeah, they shut down like the reactor or whatever. They decommissioned it like in 2004.
I'm really starting to think because nuclear technology is one of the cleanest, most reliable sources of energy, like recurring sources of energy that we have. This feels like a William Randolph Hearst type action.
Yeah, no, it is, of course, because it's all a power grab. Because what is it? I just in my surface level research, I looked up how long do fuel rods last, and you know, and I found out that on average fuel rods last about 6 years. Think about 6 years of clean power of like just of like these uranium or plutonium rods heating water, boiling water to create steam to turn turbines for 6 years.
There is no fucking reason why we should not be operating on nuclear technology. There's
Yeah,
no
it is.
reason.
It is the green energy, right?
Oh,
it's all stupid. Yeah, and also like look up the work of Galen Windsor.
yeah,
Galen
and
Windsor was he worked on the Manhattan Project. He was like one of the head guys at GE and like their nuclear division. Dude, he recounted stories of when he was at White Sands or whatever, and like he was talking about how like they would like throw balls of plutonium at each other like they were playing catch, like with no radiation suits.
wow.
Yeah, exactly. And in one of the in one of like his presentations that he gave, he ate some uranium. Like he showed like on the Geiger counter that it was like actually uranium, and like there's like all these laws like you have to properly dispose of uranium, and then he just like took like a handful and like downed it.
What a baller, dude.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then and this isn't like some whack. This is a guy. This is a known guy. He has credentials. He worked on the Manhattan Project. He was like, he has all like these, he has papers. He worked at GE. This is all stuff that's like publicly like this is all public information.
Public.
Yeah, yeah. You could look. You could find it yourself. Galen Windsor.
Check him out because that's well, like Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm like I'm a huge proponent of their technology, like because we're so it's like alternate fuel sources, which I'm for. Like I don't think it would solely rely on petroleum and God forbid wind and solar. Jesus.
Yeah, that's.
I think that
I mean, right now that's a pipe dream because.
wind solar is to William Randolph Hearst. It is like what he did to the people who are using as a paper and material source. Not for the cannabis, but like for actual usable material. And that's what's been the wind and solar people have done nuclear technology. There's no fucking reason why we should not be utilizing nuclear technology. There's just no fucking reason why we're not using it. Oh, but there's so much toxic waste. It does not Simpson, Monty Burns, where we're stuffing like drums and drums of like barrels into a tree that's going to transform into this. That's not real. The toxic waste one is very minimal, or the waste is very, very minimal, and we're gonna find a way. And there's we don't really have a way to like really find like how to get rid of it. We're gonna find a way. So, actual science will find a way to get rid of it. And I guarantee that, like, our people are using like the electric, creating these electric batteries for the electric cars. Those lithium mines have done more damage to the planet than all this other shit combined. Petroleum, nuclear technology, all this shit. Those lithium mines, those are wastelands. They're not coming back anytime soon.
Yeah, like everyone like running out to go get like their Teslas or like their hybrids or whatever. Yeah, those lithium batteries are not recyclable. After they're they lose their charge, that's it. They're done, and all they do is leach out toxins into the ground soil, and groundwater. So.
And I it's funny. I know that this is not. This is a TV show that I watched, and I forget which one it was, but I think it was like some sort of like cop show or like detective show or whatever. And there was these two competing like green energy companies, or like they created like kind of like electric batteries or whatever for, I don't know if it was for cars or whatnot. And this one company was like, they had found a way to recycle batteries, and it's like, what? And they were, kicking the ass of the other one. So the other company sent a spy, and that spy that was sent to the other company was killed. And it turned out that like he had found information that they were faking information that they were able to recycle batteries, and that there was actually no way to recycle those batteries, kind of like what we've been talking about. And it's like, yeah, that's real, and that's that, and the fact that like there was a TV episode kind of talking to the same thing that we've been discussing for a long time. It's like, wow, there's no way to recycle those batteries. Like, and they are doing you would have to drive those electric or hybrid cars for longer than your lifespan to make it worth the effort.
Right.
And they don't.
I think initially when like the Priuses first came out, there was, I think they had calculated that you would have to have owned that car for 15 years for it to like make any sort of like offset any sort of like your carbon or whatever. But it's like at that point, like how many like tires would you have to replace? How much how many oil changes would you have to have done? How many name your problem? But like owning the car, like is it really offsetting anything? I don't know.
And it's not. And I the technology that I was interested in too, like when it came to cars for like kind of like an alternate fuel source, was GM was testing it for a little while, but like I think they've abandoned the project, and I think Hyundai's taken it up, but it's like the hydrogen fuel cell, where hydrogen, which is easily creatable.
Yeah, hydrogen is like the most abundant element in the universe. I know Toyota had their hydrogen cell called the Mirai. I think it's still available, but again, it's just it's not at the point of adoption, and I don't think hydrogen. I think it's bad marketing because of the hydrogen bomb. So people, I think, again, like another spell that was cast around hydrogen, because it was associated with like the nuclear bomb, has some hurdles to it. But again, one of the most abundant elements in the world, easily made, and the byproduct is water, literally water.
Water. I always remember like the standing joke of from that '70s show High. It's like when he's like super high, he's like, "There's a car that runs on water, man, and the government doesn't want it to happen." Well, God forbid, he was right.
Yeah, I mean, he just, he got a few things wrong. It's not that it runs on water, but it'll produce water.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but to wrap up this section though, it's because kind of went down a rabbit hole. But the important thing is about spells and the narratives, and they will change on you, on a dime. I mean, just look around you right now. Like the most deadliest disease that they at least that that they were saying Corona was since the Black Death, is now all of a sudden seems less scary now. To the point where they're like on a dime, they're dropping all of these mandates around it. Isn't that just a little bit too convenient?
Because here's the thing, Andy. People are starting to become really not too scared about COVID anymore. Okay, we gotta have a new crisis. We gotta have something new that's gonna scare the people. Oh, Ukraine and Russia. Oh, and it could potentially be World War III. They're gonna play on this for as long as possible.
Yes, yeah. I was gonna get there. I was gonna get there, Robert. I was gonna get there, but it's just if the last 2 years didn't key you into their ways, quote unquote their ways, then nothing will, and you're just gonna you're gonna be continue to live in ignorance, and I mean that's fine. Maybe not everyone needs to be enlightened. Not everyone needs to be awake, as it were, because there's got to be people to keep the kind of the engine going, as it were. But those of you who are interested, I hope I hope you got yourself an education in the last 2 years, because these are the ways that powerful people stay in power, is through narratives, through spellcraft, through giving giving you an outlet for your fear or for your sin. I mean, to get into a more spirit-based analogy, but it's all sin. It's all a way for you to offload your sin. I'm being a bad person, but it's because of I'm not going to go see my mom in the hospice because there's this really bad disease out there, or I can't go visit my dad because there's this really bad war going on.
Oh no, there's this war, in the words of Joy Behar, I can't go to my Italian villa because of this war and because of COVID. Oh my god.
Well, I mean, just she's being a shitty person because she's a shitty person. But I'm just
yeah. Well,
it's the spellcraft around it. It's like the powerful people, they make you sin, or they make you do the bad thing. Not in that way they can keep their hands clean. I got it really opened my because I've been because I watch a lot of Owen Benjamin stuff, and he perfectly uh, illustrated this from a clip from like this show like that deals with like magic, and like it was like this magic academy, and they're like doing this lesson on how to levitate something, right? And
Yeah.
this one student tried to levitate the magic, and like what she did was like she she tried to channel the magic through herself, and it caused her damage, because of like kind of like because if you kind of like this again, like the sin thing, if you directly do the sin, then you have to take responsibility for it. But if you channel the spell through something else, and the instructor did it through like a flower, you send the magic through the flower first, and then you're able to raise the rock. And then, but then the flower dies. And so like the spell caster doesn't die because they sent the spell through something else, through a medium. Someone else does the sin, and then the spell caster gets the effect.
Yeah.
But not the damage. So yeah. So be careful out there about with narratives. All right.
Just think about like it, and we've said this before that the news is not your friend. Any of the legacy media, I don't care if it's CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, Fox News, they're not your friend. Occasionally, some of these people will stumble into some journalism, just like a broken clock is right twice a day. But they're not there to give you actual facts about like what's going on. Oh, we heard about the story. We don't know the facts. We'll get back to you. It's like we don't know, and they're not taking their time to actually investigate a story and then give you the news. No, most of these places are giving biased opinion on something, but they're passing that off as facts when they're not. And well, we got biased opinions. Like we never said that we weren't. We never said we were giving you facts and like, unless like something where we're talking about history or something like we're giving our opinion on something we think that is important that's going on. As more stuff develops, we change our mind, or we come back we come back around to that topic. But we're not like it's not our opinion, it's fact, like the legacy media is. And it's like I go back to Ace in the Hole once again. It's like they're never gonna give you news. Good news is no news, and no news is no ratings, and they're never going to not seek after those ratings. They're gonna do whatever is sensational, crazy, and ridiculous to get to lure people into watching. That's what happened. And disaster and manufactured crises are what sell papers, what sell bring eyes to the TV to watch the legacy media. That's what happens. When you understand that, when you start to see like the bullshit, and you open your eyes, that's when you're really liberated. You start, and I'm not really upset at like the podcast. I see it, it's like I almost laugh now. It's I'm like there hasn't been anything happened in the last like few years where I'm like, it's not even serious. And the thing, because the things that are actually really critical and serious, they're not talking about that. We have to give out like alternate sites, or what they call alternate news sites, but like it's essentially credible reporters that are independent, that are getting the actual facts, and it's like, this is bullshit, but hey, this thing that like no one else is talking about, is actually serious. And it's like, yeah, that is a serious problem. And the reason I know it's serious is like, yeah, I'm feeling that issue right now. Because that's it's affecting me for one, and it's affecting a lot of people that I know. I think that's something that should be focused on, as far as like our politicians and whatnot. But yeah, we just live in crazy times.
Indeed. All right, let's get off the subject because I'm done talking about it. So let's get on to our movie review and wrap this bitch up.
All right.
And just to remind y'all, this month's theme is martial arts March. And again, we'll be reviewing some great martial arts movies this entire month.
Yes.
So something to look forward to there. To start us off, we will be reviewing Police Story, the classic Jackie Chan movie from 1985. Let me hit y'all with the synopsis and we'll get going. All right. An honest Hong Kong cop protecting a triad boss's girlfriend turned informer finds himself framed for the murder of a dirty cop and going on the run. The movie mixes slapstick with wild stunts and features some painful outtakes during the final credits.
Yeah. Which Jackie Chan, like, so the reason why that they every movie that Jackie Chan's in, for the most
really
part,
quickly, of course, this movie stars Jackie Chan, Maggie Cheung, Bill Tung, I think is who's a fixture in Jackie Chan movies. He usually plays like his uncle or something.
Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, and again, this movie came out in 1985.
Yeah, well, like, like those great outtakes at the end of the film. So I don't know if you knew this, but have you ever watched Cannonball Run?
I'm sure I have, but I just don't remember.
Well,
I probably watched it as a kid.
Yeah, well, Jackie Chan was in that movie.
Right. Yeah. Because thanks to the loan of your Citron account, I saw that short documentary or that short little bit from was it Edgar Wright?
Yeah, and well, and and at the end of Cannonball Run, they had outtakes, and Jackie Chan was like, "That's cool. I like that they did that." And so he incorporated having like the outtakes and bloopers at the end of his films too, just to kind of showing the craft and like the made.
Showing how the sausage was made.
But anyways, yeah. So this is a movie that stars Jackie Chan. It was directed by him, and this movie came. Let's see. Oh, Jackie Chan, he got his start at the Peking Opera School, where he essentially sold himself into. I think it was like for 10 years, but essentially the people that were in this, they trained 7 days a week for 8 to 12 hours a day. It was grueling, abusive, crazy ass training that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Peking Opera School ended, a lot of these guys were like, where do we go? And that's when, like kind of like on the waterfront, you have all these like Peking Opera School guys that are, waiting, outside of movie studios, and they'd be like, yeah, we need you, when you, and that was who we picked today to be stuntman for movies and Hong Kong. And so Jackie Chan kind of got his start. There was one like film. It was there was a film that where they were like, hey, we need someone to jump from the top of the building onto concrete, jump up and like start like people up, and no one like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. And Jackie Chan's like, I can do it, and that's kind of like becoming like more prominent and became like a stuntman for Bruce Lee, and really kind of got his kind of start in movies.
That's right. Yeah, like a lot of you don't. Yeah, a lot of you may not know, but Jackie Chan started off as one of many nameless bad guys that Bruce Lee would beat up on. And even like even Jackie Chan has an anecdote of like of a scene that he did with him, and like where Bruce like got like landed like a pretty decent hit on him, and like when they called cut, Bruce Lee like went up to him immediately like, oh, and apologized profusely for hitting him.
Yeah, and actually we're gonna see there's gonna be a scene where we're gonna see Jackie Chan and I do Fifth Fury later in the month. He was one of the stuff in Fist of Fury that we're going to be reviewing later on. So we'll see Jackie Chan again, like, very, very early days.
Right. Oh, and if I didn't make it clear, we're not just going to be doing Jackie Chan movies. I think we should dedicate an entire month to him. But yeah, we're gonna be watching martial arts movies from like all over the place, and varied stars.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing a variety of different ones, different actors. Like this is not a Jackie Chan, which we could definitely a whole month of Jackie Chan. I'd be fine with that, but no, I felt it was important for us to highlight different types of like martial arts and different like actors, because I think they bring different things to the table. But I thought like it would be good. I love Jackie Chan a lot, and I was like, I wanted to start with him just because this will be probably about like 6 or 7 months ago, and like hearing about it, that sounds awesome. And I haven't seen a lot of his Hong Kong stuff, and I watched this. I was like, this is fucking great. So I definitely wanted to talk about this one. Maggie Chung is actually big too. Like, she's been in a bunch of movies.
Yeah, she plays his girlfriend, right?
I really, yeah. And there's a movie that she's in that I have on my list. I haven't watched yet, but it's about like a silent film like in like Hong Kong back in like the 30s, and I'm like, that it sounded pretty interesting. But Maggie Chung seems like a good enough actress because she's actually been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we have like the Bridget Lin plays Selena Fong, which is like kind of like the she's the secretary to the villain, who's kind of like always kind of around in the movie. She's like the prime witness for Jackie Chan's character. And you have Choi Yun, who plays Chu Tao, the crime lord. And I thought it was like, man, I see like that name sounds very familiar to like like when we in Rush Hour, like where the bad guy is Juntao. Mm-hmm. I was like, I wonder if those are like kind of where like that name came from. It's like, oh, the bad guy from Police Story kind of has a similar name to the bad guy in Rush Hour, which is like where many people in America got introduced to Jackie Chan.
Yeah. Yeah, and what was it, Maggie Chung? She's seems like a frequent collaborator with Jackie Chan, being in a bunch of his movies.
She's good. And
Yeah,
here's
I'm just noting that like they work together a lot, so they're
yeah.
like so
Well,
they're
and here
constant collaborators.
yeah, and here's the other thing too is, uh, like Jackie Chan, like all these actors, they're getting involved in the stunts too. There's no stunt double. Like they're doing the stunts too, and we see in the outtakes where like Maggie Chung and like Bridget Lin, they're getting hurt. Like, like so
Right. Yeah.
they're taking some.
There's that one outtake, or at the end they're like kind of like showing how they designed the stunt where there's like that one where Bridget Lin, like she gets flipped over onto a table and you see like how they practiced it. Um,
Yeah.
and then it's pretty brutal, and I mean just like that's why I took like I especially took like onus, or I was offended when I watched that Shang-Chi movie, and like I watched it with like this younger guy, and he was saying like, oh man, that was like the most crazy fight scene I ever saw. It was so good. I was like, have you never seen a Jackie Chan movie? I mean, like not just Rush Hour, but like his like his Hong Kong day stuff. It's like clearly not, because like
I'm like,
especially in Police Story, like you see some of the stunts, like you see like these guys like like that scene where like he's on like in the middle of the road, he stops the bus, and those three guys come flying out of it, and like they land on the fucking concrete. It's like
what? That's also another staple of Jackie Chan. His, normally like, when you have like these great action scenes, the camera's cutting, and you don't necessarily, you as like an audience member, you're like, oh, that sounds like that. Oh, that looks like a tough fall. That's a tough fight. That's a tough punch, and like, but
right.
you're not actually seeing it. In Jackie Chan films, like those scenes, like it's a wide lens. We're seeing the action, like there's no cutaway. You're
Right.
seeing
It's I remember. Yeah. Again, thanks to your access to your account, I saw that little featurette where he was talking about like how the difference between Western movies and like Hong Kong movies, and it's like editing. It's like usually like when like they like or when like the character is about to throw a punch, they stop it like right before the impact, and they do like a reverse shot, and then they continue the punch through. It's like that's not realistic. That's not how you see action. And so like he was talking about how like he utilizes like wide shots and as many like one takes as possible, and and how he like when he sets up a scene, he shoots it for the action, not necessarily for the character.
yeah, and the idea too is like the thing that also followed him is like before Jackie Chan, you'd have these fight scenes, and it's always like you have this one guy coming, the guy takes him down, and the other guy comes, you take him down, and it's like and the guy like shifts the background to pretend like there's a lot of
Right,
action
like
happening.
the 1-on-5, and like they all like politely come after you one at a time.
Not in a Jackie Chan film. They're all coming at the same time, and these guys, between Jackie, because he's been working with these guys for a long time, they have their own language, and it's like they'll call out like when they're coming, and it's like so he know like they before everything starts, they have the stunts worked out. They work on these stunts for months at a time. And so, like, they have them worked out, and it's like how they incorporated them in the film, or like how it incorporated to the story is added in later. But they work on these stunts, and it's like I know that this is going to come from behind, so I had to block this way, or here, based off of like the call outs. But he's like, it looks stupid where like it's just like one person coming at you at a time. It's more fun where I'm being attacked by like 5 people at once. Right. That's more exciting.
Right. Again, another like little featurette. The Edgar Wright portion. When he was talking about like when he envisions Jackie Chan, it's more of like him like this, because like he's being attacked. He's blocking from like both sides because he's attacked from both sides.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's very much staple of Jackie Chan movies where it's like he's being attacked like all the time, and like it's not like the kind of like previously in action films where like if it's like 10 guys against 10 on one, like they all politely one at a time come and attack him. No, in Jackie Chan movies they all attack you simultaneously, and Jackie Chan is always like defending himself.
He's always on the defensive. He's always like running away,
Right. Yeah, and
trying to
like yeah,
find a new advantage.
exactly.
It's
Kind
more
of like he's the opposite of Bruce Lee, where it's like Bruce Lee it was like the most everyone knows like the iconic like stance that he takes in like the kind of like what's uh, the enticement where he kind of like wave like he like looks at the camera and like looks at the opponent and like kind of like eggs him on. It's like, come on, attack me. And that is not Jackie
yeah,
Chan.
where he's acting like super cool and like and don't get me wrong, Bruce Lee is cool. Like he looks cool in his movies, but Jackie Chan is more of a comedian and like he wants to have like more of that like crazy action. And I think there is much more crazy action in his films because he makes that happen. And that's why I like his movies so much more. They're great.
Yeah. Really, that in that opening scene, like in like the kind of like makeshift shanty town. Do you think that? What's his face? Michael Bay, saw this movie because that scene reminded me of the scene that he did in Bad Boys 2, like in Cuba, like when they go like to Cuba to go rescue Martin Lawrence's character's sister, and like they go through like the favela.
Are you reading my notes, dude? Because I said the same fucking thing.
Dude, Robert, we're essentially the same we're essentially the same person, so we're gonna come up with like similar, we're gonna have parallel thinking.
Dude, I feel like you're reading my notes. But what I was saying, the other thing I found fascinating, like listening to what Jackie Chan was saying, talking about like how he creates movies, is that and it's weird because he's a stuntman who became a leading actor, which is kind of a very odd way for someone to get into the acting world.
Right. Really quickly, it's kind of the Chad Stahelski path because just how Jackie Chan started off as like a stuntman to becoming like leading man, like director. The kind of like again, like if you guys don't necessarily recognize the name, but the guy who wrote and directed John Wick, he was a stuntman, and he didn't star in it, but he wrote it and he directed it.
No shit.
Yeah. I believe Chad Stahelski was Keanu. And the connection to Keanu Reeves is that I think he was Keanu Reeves' stunt double in The Matrix, the first one.
No kidding. Oh wow.
Yeah, and so that's like, and that I think that's the connection, and I think that's how Chad Stahelski got Keanu Reeves to be in his movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes me. What makes me. I gotta watch the John Wick movies.
But he does put himself in his own movie because he plays the if you remember in the first one he plays the bodyguard for the son, like when they're at like the Russian baths.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, and he plays like the lead like guard. Yeah, that's him.
Oh, okay, all right. Going back to this movie, the way Jack Chan put the movie together, it's like he talks like about how like they come up with the stunt scene first. Hey, we wanted to do these different types of things, and then from there it's like, what do we, similar to how the writer of Fifty Shades of Grey, James, where she created all the sex scenes and like created a story around them. That's kind of like what Jackie Chan did with his movies with stunts. And yes, that is a real stunt that I said, and I compared Fifty Shades of Grey to Jackie Chan, which I never thought I would say. But essentially, he creates the stunts, and then they create the story around the stunts. Like, why would these characters do this? What's the scenario where like we would use the stunt? And then as the story starts to develop, it's like, oh, we actually should move this stunt from the end to the front of the movie, and we should move this stunt over to the middle, and this one over to the end. And this will be the big, like, dramatic, end. And that's kind of how he creates the movies. We get that in, like, Police Story 2 and, like, some of his other, like, big films that he directed after this one. And we kind of, I think a lot of his stunt crew was involved with, like, Rush Hour and, like, Shanghai Noon and, like, some of, like, the big stuff that we got in America, where unlike before when he was in Hollywood, where they're like, the stunts that would, like, take months to, like, put together, they're like, they were asking, before when he first came in, they're like, hey, you have a day to, like, put this together. It's like, I can't do that in a day. This takes a lot of work. And afterwards, he was kind of given semi carte blanche to, like, hey, take your time to do the stunts. We'll give you the time. And you definitely see, like, even though he's older, we definitely see it's the same type of stuff that we're seeing over from, like, Hong Kong, where, like, the level of craftsmanship in the stunts and the fight scenes and stuff that he's in. But I also heard, like, I don't know if this is, like, 100% true still, but I heard that this movie holds the record for most glass broken in a film.
I could believe that for sure.
God.
Yeah, especially at the last fight scene at the end, at the shopping mall, just like so much glass broken.
Oh, that shopping mall scene. We'll talk about that. Oh my god, that's one of the greatest fight scenes I've ever fucking seen in a movie. It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely, and you definitely see, like, the kind of, like, the Jackie kind of editing style, because again, like, it's really interesting because, like, they have it down to, like, because, like, it's not as though they don't do any sort of cuts, but it's very logical, and, like, in the terms of a fight, like, they have, like, a certain, like, choreograph for the fight. It's like punch, block, block, punch, kick, and then, like, the next shot will be, like, a follow up where like splits, punch, block, and then, like, it just kind of follows the action naturally. Whoa.
So why don't we dive into, like, because I figure, like, to me, the big, like, scenes of this movie were obviously, like, the opening at the Chinatown when they're trying to arrest
the crime boss.
What's the crime boss. There is some of the comedic stuff, like, within when he's trying to protect the secretary of the crime boss, and obviously we get introduced to his girlfriend, and the crime boss's crew attacks him. There is the scene where he tries to rescue Selena from, like, the crime boss, and then there's the mall fight. Like, to me, those are, like, the big, like, 4 stunt scenes that are just, like, there's a lot of shit happening.
Right. Yeah, I mean, no question that the stunt scenes, are the big draw for this movie. But in terms, I just want to quickly talk about the story, and I think it was done really well, and I think can't remember like what movie it reminded me of, but it very much reminded me of like a modern kind of like you know police story. Um,
And before this, a lot of like Hong Kong films were based like back in the past, like
mhm.
with like kind of like Shaolin masters and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
This is
very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like like the Wire Fu and a lot more like historical, almost like historical dramas.
Yeah, and this is one of the first movies that it's actually like based in more of like modern day Hong Kong and dealing with like a modern story. And it is, are there moments where it's silly? And I think that's also part of like Jackie Chan, because he's a huge fan of guys like Harold Lloyd and Buster Keaton, where he likes to have a little bit of comedy in there. Uh, and yeah, it's a little silly at times, but the story is actually pretty intriguing and fun. And like you want to know what you want to see Jackie Chan win the day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, now what it would be like is like a classic tale of like a good cop, who is being is trying to being taken down by a mob guy, and there's like a little bit of like there's a little twists and turns because like the good cop is set up by the bad guy, and like he kind of has to go he has to kind of go outside the law to get justice or whatever. It's like kind of things that we kind of feel like you know it kind of feels like kind of trite or kind of hackneyed now, but like I think for the time, this it was pretty this is pretty revolutionary kind of stuff, and especially for a Hong Kong film, and it was done really well.
Yeah, the thing is like what you're not going to see in like something like this is the white hat character is not going to become like going to turn into the black hat and vice versa. Like it's gonna be like there's not going to be like a lot of this like super materials. Like this is the good guy, this is the bad guy, and the story about the good guy trying to get the bad guy and save the day, and like kind of justice be served. And that's obviously like some people might find that story like boring or cheesy nowadays, because a lot of our movies are more like they've kind of like merged into the gate. And obviously we like some of those films, but it's kind of like fun watching the white hat against the black hat.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. This is
That's
yeah.
what the story is.
This is a very black or white kind of movie. Jackie Chan's the good guy, and yes, he kind of uh, he does go outside the law, but he still maintains like that white hat status. Um, I think the coolest part was like when he goes and like when he goes on the lam, and he goes and tracks down like that informant guy that that betrayed him. And he has like that really cool scene where like he traps like one of the thugs with like the forklift, and then he like kind of almost like scare like almost in a very scary way, kind of like dismounts the forklift and like walks over to that guy, and like you can see like he's like pissing his pants.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was like the most badass Jack. I think that's the most badass that we see Jackie Chan in this movie.
Yeah, this might be like this is the strongest character I've ever seen that I've seen Jackie Chan play. Because normally he's kind of like the I don't want no trouble,
Yeah,
kind of guy, and
yeah.
he does. But no, he's someone that is in this movie, and like I said, I've seen Police Story 2. I haven't seen any of the other sequels, but I would love to see them.
Mm.
Uh, but it's just like he's a guy that like he wants to get the bad guy, and he's willing to take the risk to make that happen. And sometimes it does like affect his personal life, as we see like with his girlfriend May. And he's kind of like a little bit of a arrogant guy, and sometimes that gets we get the comedic elements from that, like where he gets humbled, and but I mean, right from the get go, this movie it punches you with action, like right away, like so you get invested right away with like they're the whole police crew's doing the stakeout on the crime lord's like activity, and they have like a lot of the exits blocked, and but the chase ensues, and like they're just going through the town. Shit's exploding, and that's real wood and corrugated iron, and there's a lot of danger and shit that's happening, and they're just driving through this thing like shit's exploding and going crazy, and great stunt work. And then you start like the whole scene where the bad guys get on the bus, and they're thinking they're trying to escape, and Jackie Chan just takes that umbrella, which is not a real umbrella. It's an umbrella. Well, it's an umbrella that is reinforced with steel.
Right.
So
there's no way that like using an actual umbrella he'd be able to pull that off.
So it's kind of like it's a semi-reality, because he really like hooks himself to that bus and is like being dragged by the bus, and like
yeah, exactly.
But like, oh my god, like that son is like, he runs after the bus, hooks the umbrella to it, and like he is being dragged from the bus. He climbs up the bus with the umbrella, and I am impressed. That guy, Jackie, has this insane strength to pull himself up on that bus, and then like the cars are coming from like the opposite direction. He lifts his legs up and he's like jumping, kind of like scouring the hood. He's fighting guys as he's trying to climb up the bus, and he ends up falling off because he's knocked off. He rolls off the bus that is moving, and then he takes off like to catch up to them, to get ahead of them. He takes off down this extremely steep hill, which one wrong move, that's a broken neck or something is broken.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up like first of all, his gun was loaded. Why is he unloading his gun and then reloading it? But I kind of like put that off of my mind.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, so I wasn't sure what that was either, because, well, but then you have to remember that it was a revolver, so he had, like, to reload it, he had to remove the spent cartridge. If he did, I think he did fire his gun, so he was
times, but he didn't like empty the rounds.
Right, but then like again, because it was a revolver, like he had to opened it, and let out the spent shells. But also, it looked like he was using like some other kind of round too. It looked like they're like bigger, or maybe there's like they're bigger, so like they're louder, so he was able to like stop them with just like the sound of the gun. I don't know, but that's just how I interpreted that scene.
Why it was done is because it looks cool. That's why.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, the rule of cool. Yeah, I get it.
The rule of cool. I like it. That's exactly what happened. It looked awesome. That's why he's doing it. Because what it reminded me of was in I think it was like the third or fourth Dirty Harry film, like where he does kind of the same thing, like where he's like reloading his Magnum. And it's kind of like the same like thing that he was doing. It's like, oh, this kind of like, I wonder if like Dirty Harry like kind of like took some either this was inspired by Dirty Harry or vice versa. Like, because I don't remember when.
Well, Dirty
The
Harry
Dirty Harry.
came out in the late 70s, and this came out in '85.
I'm not talking about the first one. I'm talking about like the third or fourth one. I don't know if that was like
I see.
also 85 or if it was like later or before. I like I said, I had to look at the years, but like it's like it reminded me of that. I'm sure there was some inspiration on either side. I don't know which one inspired the other, but
All right, chicken or egg, chicken or egg.
yeah, exactly. But this is a Dirty Harry moment. Like you got to reload the gun and make it look cool, and then he Joe Biden in like a fire into the air to.
I know. Oh yeah, you don't. It's like just get a double barrel shotgun and fire. Fire a warning shot into the air. It's like that's dangerous, Joe. Especially like if you live in like an urban surrounding or even the suburbs. Like that bullet's gonna. Those bullets are gonna. That shot's gonna come down somewhere.
Yeah. Fucking jerk. Anyways.
Yeah,
so
I mean, but if you think about it, it makes perfect sense if you think about like where he lives, and he lives on like this huge estate. So and there's like he doesn't have any neighbors like for like 3 miles on either side of him.
Yeah, then you fire a couple of shots off in the air, and it's
fine. It's fine.
Maybe you'll hit a deer, and you'll have meat for a week.
Exactly.
But you have so he fires a shot off into the air. And scares scares the guy, and then we get this like really cool scene like where like the bus finally slams on the brakes, and all these guys tumble out of the windows of the bus, like glasses breaking everywhere, and they tumble out on the ground. What a fucking awesome scene! Like it's just
and you see them landing on like the street on concrete, and just like it's like. And it's like you can't believe that this was like done with like real people. It's just like, oh my god, And this is all probably before like insurance and stuff got involved and.
Oh, there was no insurance, I guarantee.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is Hong Kong in like the '80s, in the mid '80s. There's no like insurance. What's that?
It like that. Like so, right off the bat, like we get this great fucking action scene. That we know, like it just is like we look at it, it's like this is dangerous, like and they all pulled it off, and this is so amazing. Then we get so we get that like the bad guy gets arrested and all that stuff like that, and then they end up kind of they're gonna try to protect the secretary, try to make her a witness for the prosecution. And he ends up like having to like stand in protection, and he creates this like kind of to get her to talk.
Like, he basically does a false flag, and like he gets one of his fellow officers to come and like attack her, because she was very resistant at first, but then like once they put like the fear of like death into her, like because the police do like this great thing of like putting some doubt within the mobster's mind by having her like talk to like the prosecutor by herself without her attorney, which they don't even say anything to her. They just like kind of like they just like kind of like mill around the office for like a couple of minutes, and then like she finally's like, aren't you gonna ask me anything? It's like, oh no, that's it. And so like putting in the minds of like the mob lawyer and like the mobsters, like, oh, she talked, didn't she? So we gotta get her. And so
that's actually like, see, this is where like I actually think that like what was the screenplay like second fiddle to the action? Absolutely. But was the screenplay bad? No. This is where like there was actually like good story writing. Like that's a good plot line where you set up this thing where like, oh, actually, like, we're not going to say anything to you. We're just going to make it look like we said something, and that
we're going to like cause a division between you two to make it seem like you flipped on him.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like, I don't know if they ever done that previously, but like nowadays, like I know I've seen that that same move in like some other like kind of police procedural or cop movie.
100%. And like I I'm trying to think of like all like the noir films that I've watched, like or like gangster films I've watched in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't really think of one that like did it quite like this.
Right, exactly. And yeah, and it's like again, kind of maybe again how we how we came up with that term cinematic archaeology. Maybe this was the movie that that started that whole motif of like of a police procedural where like they're trying to sow division between like two you know, gang members or two like close like mafia associates, and like they make one seem like that they flipped. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, because like we now kind of take that for granted now, but this maybe this was the origination point.
It's the first one that I can think of that does this.
Right. Yeah, like that I can like remember, or at least that since I've seen it, like it's like I'm like trying to remember like all these other cop movies, and it's like I don't remember ever seeing that move.
And then like what I also like about this movie too is so obviously we have like kind of like showing that division between Selena and the gang, the mafia, and so we get like some funny scenes there. But then like it turns out like they actually the bad guys did send henchmen to attack her, and it's like they're he's all walking all confident. It's like haha, and it's like now she believes me. It's like he's acting all like strong and confident and cool, and he ends up like oh, we're trained for these situations. Hits the baby carriage and like the guy that's like walking across, which is kind of like why did they like I mean it's set up like in this is like where the there's no like deep thing here. This is just like a setup for like a cool action scene from Jackie Chan. It's like the guy walks up with like a fake baby carriage with like with a baby doll, and like when you look at it, it's like you get like the musical thing. It's, oh shit, like action happening. You get and this action scene that like happens with like all the cars and the bats and the breaking is like it's great too, and it's and is much taken this time. It's like, man, these guys are really serious, I guess. And like, wait, they weren't serious before. It's like, oh well, I mean, they're just more serious now than they were before. Like he's trying to cover up that he caused that whole scenario beforehand. And, it leads up to this like great comedy moment, which is what which is a Jackie Chan staple, where they're driving back to his place so that he can protect her, and Jackie Chan he's a dedicated police guy, so he forgets it's his birthday, and his girlfriend is there with like all his like friends to like surprise him, and he comes back with this half dressed like half naked woman to his apartment, and it's like, oh, it's my birthday, and it's like, oh crap, the half naked woman that I brought with me, and oh, my girlfriend's super pissed. She eyes me in the face, which is like which is inspired by like the Three Stooges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's like
he's
right, because he gets caked in the face like 3 times. Like who has that many birthday cakes?
Oh. It's so brilliant. It's great. And like I said, this is the part. Like there are serious action sequences, but then like there's the comedy action parts of it too. Like where he, like I said, it's the Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd type of comedy stunts that he does that are like just fun. And this is one of those. I don't know if you had anything else to say about those, or like something you thought about them.
Not really. About that or about those specific fight scenes. But they were, they were great and very exhilarating.
Yeah. But then we get the what happens next. Okay. Oh, right. So after he's trying to reconcile with May, who God, that's like where he like he's like hanging on to Maggie Chung and she's trying to like go off of she's pissed. She's trying to get on her scooter and he like yanks her off the scooter and like she like lands her ass. I'm like, oh God, that looks like it's so painful. And during that time, Selena is just kind of like roaming around his apartment, and she sees like the picture of like all the policemen. It's like, oh shit, it's the guy that like attacked me.
Mm-hmm.
And so she starts like, oh, this guy's full of shit, and he was in on it. And so she sets him up to like where she records over her testimony that she gave during the car ride home.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like set him up like that he's some like sexual deviant that was trying to like have sex with her in the apartment. So we get that, and then like when it came to the morning time, she left him, and I think she sabotaged his alarm so they didn't go off and that he
Right.
woke
Yeah.
up.
There was on all of his alarm clocks there was like band-aids over it, so like the ringer wouldn't go off.
Yeah. And so he brings like that tape, like she's disappeared. They're going through the the court scene is like ridiculous because like this is definitely like British Hong Kong at this point because they're wearing this.
Yeah. I mean, it was in the 80s, so it was still under British rule.
Those
so yeah, they have like the wigs and like the robes.
I object.
Yeah, I object. It's like, I object. Yeah, and for those of you,
during those, it's just like I object.
I know, I object. But yeah, for those of you who've never heard Cantonese, it's pretty hard on the ears.
It is really hard on the ears, but it's like, but here's the thing: you gotta watch this movie in its original language. It just, I don't know. I've listened to it dubbed. It's awful.
Yeah.
Watch it in the original language.
I know. Yeah, it'll take some getting used to hearing Cantonese because again, like we've said, it's hard on the ears. But it's way better. It's way better than watching it dubbed.
100%. Actually, God, I think all of our movies are going to be subbed for the most part.
Yeah.
Maybe not Fist of Fury. But I think like everything else is going to be subbed. So these are all foreign language. Well, all of them are foreign language films, but I don't think I have a copy of Fist of Fury without it being dubbed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll be hard pressed to find a copy of Fist of Furies like in the original Chinese, with subtitles.
I mean, that'd be great if I could find it, but
yeah. But yeah, other than that, really quickly, you have to give it up for the mob lawyer for like all of like his kind of like tricks. Because when he was talking about
Good lawyer.
Yeah, the mob lawyer, and he was like, when he was questioning Jackie Chan's character about like, about the buses and how was he so sure that was the bus that the suspect was on, and like it was like are you sure? Are you sure you saw the entire bus? Like, oh yes, I'm sure I saw 100% of the bus. It's So how can it be when you only saw this, this one side? So you're only seeing 50% of it, and it's just like all of like
That
these
is
kind
some
of lawyer tricks.
pulled.
What was it?
That is some Johnny Cochran magic that he pulled.
Yeah, I know exactly. So yeah, I got to give props to that lawyer.
If you can't see the other half of the bus, you must have quit. Oh, it doesn't quite fit. It's not the same thing as it fit, but
Yeah.
so that ends up leading to well, Jackie Chan's character is well, depending on the version that you watch, he is either Kevin, which is the English dubbed version, or Kakui.
Yeah, that's that's the version I saw.
Yeah, he ends up getting like put to like another station for something. Is like punishment for like, fucking up the case. And,
Yeah. Like out in the boonies or something.
Yeah, end up getting, but he's still like getting information and like what's happening because he's trying to keep tabs on the bad guy and the case that he's involved with. But we get this awesome physical comedy scene at this new police station where he's answering phones and he's like, spinning around on his chair and it's like, oh, you've been raped? Oh, like, let me give you this thing. Oh, you had a cow kidnapped? Oh, and like, the phone's like wrapped around him. Right. And he's just like, he's trying to like, a maze calling him on another line, and he's trying to like get all that solved. And it's like, oh, you've been raped. Let me get a pen. And a scene like where he kicks the pen up, like into his hand. You know how many takes that took?
Yeah, I think you told me.
80.
Yeah, 80 takes. Yeah, like we see a few of the attempts at the end. But yeah, and that was like all done practically. Like Jackie Chan literally sat there and like did 80 takes of that to get that one shot.
Insane.
Yeah, but, I mean nowadays it would have just been like CGI'd and like or whatever. But I mean, given the time that this movie was made, they didn't have that kind of technology. But it's like, could you imagine like if a studio like because that's also like film that's being used, like that's 79 mistakes that they made for that one shot. And back then when they they actually shot on film, that was expensive for them to, because they would have to develop that entire role, like all mistakes and all.
Yeah, and what's crazy about that too is, and Jackie Chan talks about it, it's like, listen guys, like, yeah, I have some, I have some talent, but it's like, a lot of times, like, I'm actually not very talented, like, because I make a lot of mistakes, but I have the patience to go through all those mistakes to get that one shot that I want, and that's why, like, and a scene like that, that's the guy that's spending 79. He failed 79 times to get the one shot. That's like some Stanley Kubrick shit right there.
Indeed.
I mean, it's he is directing himself in that moment because there's no one else in that scene.
Right.
But that's Stanley Kubrick level insanity. Just to get that one scene. That one, like, the stupid little pencil kicked into his hand, which is very cool. But it's just like, my God, why would you do that to yourself? But that's Jackie Chan.
Yes,
yeah. Okay, and then after that, that meeting here, he's supposed to end up meeting with May, but he gets some information about like the case, And as he's meeting with May, it's like, okay, you have 4 days to like, kind of like, give me like, you have 4 days. Give me the information I need on this guy so we can like, get some.
Right, and this is
figure
where
out
he
what's.
gets. This is where he gets betrayed.
Yeah, and well, we get this great scene like where like his car for some reason doesn't have like a handbrake anymore,
Yeah,
and
the
so he's like,
handbrake broke,
oh,
and so
it's like he's trying to hold it
you
off.
know what? He probably broke it when he made that awesome, slide move, into that parking space.
Well, and that was a great stunt.
Right. I mean, like even like yeah, in
I
like
don't
the
know.
movie, like because in and even like because he stole that spot from somebody else. Like there was a guy and he was like measuring like the space and like he's like, would it fit my car? It's like yes, and he like he's about to reverse it in, and Jackie Chan sees that space and he's like, oh shit, and then he like floors it, and then he like smoothly like slides into that space. And even though like Jackie Chan stole his parking spot, even that guy was like, that's a nice parking spot. Or, that's a nice parking job. Even he had to kind of give props. Oh, I guess we lost Robert for a second. Let's hold on. Wait for him to come back. Yeah, again, another and that getting back to what Robert mentioned. Yeah, like even though there's like this nice little comedic element of Jackie Chan's character, like his car, like because probably from that move, like emergency brake didn't work, and so like he had to like stand in front of it to keep it from going down the hill that he meets May on. And you have this nice little bit of comedy where he's like trying to keep the car from going down, but she keeps walking away. So like he kind of like walks with her as he's holding the car in place, and it's a great bit of like comedy, put in like I guess also like
It's
this kind of this personal moment that that he's having with his girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, no, I want to meet your mom. I want to have like lunch with your mom. It's like, oh, crap, I got to take this phone call at the this phone booth that's over there. It's like, can you please hold the car because the brake is broken? And it's like, wait, what? And it's like, oh no, I gotta go. And like, she's yelling at him. It's like, and she like all of a sudden like you see like Jack like back is to her, and it's like he's hugging her, and you just see her eyes getting like bigger and bigger. It's like, oh, and it's like, and last second he ends up like jumping, grabbing her and jumping away from the car that just busts down, like it crashes into the phone booth and into the wall. Once again, more glass broken in the movie. It's like, what a great stunt though. It's like you have to like that'd be more like I didn't hear like how that was done, but it's like, man, that is like it just feels like literally like the last second possible for them to jump out of the way they did, because that car looked like it was about ready to hit them.
Right, because I mean I'm sure because I'm sure they didn't let it loose from like very far back, so like it could pick up speed, but even still, like the amount of speed that it was able to generate for itself going downhill, like that could easily like definitely like cause some bruising or even like broken a bone.
Oh yeah, easily.
So again, like
But
all
anyways, from that,
practical, all practical.
yeah. But we go from like that, like phone call he gets is like he gets the information he wants, like he knows like where they're potentially holding Selena, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna take a cab. Oh, tell your mom I can't be there. Like, bye. And like it's kind of like leaving your girlfriend in the lurch once again. And it's like, man, like I feel so bad for me. Like she just wants to be a good girlfriend. She loves Kawi and like his like work ethic, but it's like at the same it's like, I'm being left alone again. Because they've been dating for a long time. He cares, obviously, but it's, she's doesn't really get him for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up going to, like, village somewhere. And, someone, like, mentioned that, like, this is not necessarily where parkour started, but this definitely has a lot of parkour elements to it, like the way that he is jumping over fences into the villa, and the way that he like climbing up stuff or climbing stuff. It has like a lot of parkour elements to it. I don't know if you noticed that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, another example of that kind of technique would probably, at least more recently, since I saw it recently, was in Rush Hour, when after Jackie Chan's character gets away from Chris Tucker's character, like he goes to the consulate and he like scales the wall, but he does like this thing where like he kind of like jumps from one side to like kind of like perpendicular a perpendicular part of the wall, and he's able to like kind of scale the wall up that way in a relatively smooth motion.
With the steering wheel attached to his hand too.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it cinema in a lot of ways tends to, a lot of guys are taking inspiration from one another. Like, one of the movies that we did this month, One Wonderful Sunday, is being inspired by Italian realism. With Wonderful Sunday, we have a lot of parkour elements in films that are being inspired probably 100% being inspired by Jackie Chan and the stuff that he's doing, where he's scaling walls or jumping over shit. And you have, like I said, it's and Jackie Chan is inspired by silent movie era, physical comedy elements, like guys like Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd, and I'm sure the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges. I guarantee that he watched all those guys. It was inspired by them. So the fact that America is inspiring Hong Kong is inspiring America again, and that is inspiring French film. It's all Italian films inspiring Japanese film, and, Russian literature and cinema is inspiring Japanese film. It all revolves around each other.
Yeah. Well, here I'll tell you the dirty little secret about art, and it's that it's all referential, either self-referential or just it's all referential. Like people are always borrowing or stealing from each other, and so there's your dirty little secret about art, Rob. It's all referential.
Which is fine. I'm totally cool with this. I think it's great. It's kind of fun seeing all these little elements. It's a cinematic archaeology. You're seeing these little elements from different types of cinema, and and being inspired from other types that are inspiring other types. So we get, and this is where we get another great action scene where he starts he rescues Selena, and but then he starts fighting off the bad guys, and
right. And this is where it gets sets up.
That scene where he they end up all these action scenes with chairs and all the physical, he's looking around how can we use chairs? How can we use sets or this to make something a fun action scene? And he's from behind. He starts off he's he's taking control. He's fighting the guys, beating them up, and all of a sudden, like, he goes from being like, the challenger to, like, one that's, just getting the shit kicked out of him. And there's like where he throws, like, and then you have like the my cop friend who's here, like, he jumped on the scene, and all of a sudden, like, he takes advantage and, like, kind of like breaks Jackie's advantage, and the bad guys end up kind of going against him, betraying him, shooting him, and killing him. And it's like, oh crap! He ends up throwing him at the bad guys, creating a diversion. Runs up to the roof. And the scene where he throws Selena off the roof into the pool, I'm like, that scene, because that's not like a cutaway scene. He literally threw her into the pool, which is
right. And it wasn't
insane.
as though the pool was like right, below them. That was like still like, I think, at least a good like 10 feet like clearance from like the building to the pool. When you see the shot from like the bottom, and you see like where he threw her from, yeah, that's like at least easily 10 feet. The stunt person had to clear before they even landed into the pool.
Not a stunt person. That was Bridget Lynn doing that. And,
right.
John and Bridget Lynn were 100% involved in these stunts, which is insane. Like, and so the fact that, like, because like some people saying, oh, this is such a misogynistic movie. It's like Jackie is having, like, I mean, yeah, there's like a ton of like female characters in the movie, but like he is the two main women in the film. They're in the film, stunts and all. Like, they're in it. They're taking the just the same as the male characters that are in the film.
Mm-hmm.
I think like they're part of Jackie's team too, or at least at this time they were. And then after that, we get like Jackie gets chloroformed. He gets, and then like it's obviously the evidence that, like, his gun killed the cop, and like they're looking for Cockwe, and kind of like leads up to like towards the end of the film where he's trying to hide from the police. He ends up turning himself in, and it's like, oh, but I'm not involved. And he ends up taking the captain hostage. It's like, I didn't do this. It's kind of like felt like a little bit of a Serpico moment. It's like, and then he ends up like escaping with the captain. It's like, I need more time. I just need a little bit of time to get the information I need. He ends up involving his girlfriend in it, and this leads us up to the very end of the movie with like that mall scene, which is amazing. This is one of the greatest fight scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Because Selena ends up getting like, she on her own ends up getting the evidence that is needed to put the crime lord away, and Jackie Chan's character is following her. Cockwe is following her. He's being kind of protected and like helped by his girlfriend, and this is where everything kind of culminates here at the end. And that scene in the mall, they filmed there for a month.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm pretty sure, like, they did it after hours or whatever, but still, like, yeah, it took, like, them a month to shoot. They're, like, and just to give, like, some perspective, like, usually, like, I mean, a non-heavy like stunt-oriented movie, they're probably they're probably filming at a location no more than like a few days, like 5 at the most. But like even in like with like a movie with a bunch of stunts probably will take a week, but but like the level of stunts that they were doing, yeah, like the idea that they were there for a month, that's amazing.
Yeah, and like they because like they were there for like about a month, and it gets to the point where, like the mall was like, "Are you guys almost done? Because we need the mall back." And it wasn't like they actually shut down that mall for like a month to film, and so like it came together, where that last scene with Jackie was like they had to get that shot because they were running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh man, I had to say like his stunt people, like not just Jackie, but like the stunt people themselves are so good.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're the guy that's getting like thrown down the escalator. You have the guy that's being thrown down several stories, like through like several layers of glass and like cabinets and shit. You have Jackie himself who's being thrown over several stories. Uh, the scene like where he's trying to protect Selena, and like the guy grabs her bag and like grabs her, and he like he low kicks the dude and like knocks him back, and like he's still holding Selena, and he like yank her up, and even Selena's getting wrapped. Like, I mean, she's getting like hit like she's getting hit by kicks and punches thrown through glass too, and like she's getting the same cuts like Jackie Chan is getting. It's like this is one of the most intense, crazy fight scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Everyone's involved.
Yeah, it's pretty hectic. Um, I
Like the
enjoy.
last
I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty interesting that this is almost like a deconstruction of like the idea of like in video games where like or like even in Bruce Lee's movie, The Game, where it's like a steady, like the pagoda scene where like he keeps like leveling up and up and up, kind of like in the video game, like the bosses. Um,
yeah,
but in this one, it's kind of like it's almost subverted because like he's going all over different levels in this mall and interestingly enough, like the final boss fight, even though like it's an old man, it's like he kicks the shit out of him. It's at the bottom. It's at the base. It's at the first level of the mall, and so.
yeah. One thing that I thought was like, super cool is like where he's using like the clothes rack to like fight people.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like spinning around. It's like clank, 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 clank. It's like he's like spinning around on like on the clothes rack. So like as he's like fighting these guys. I thought that was like really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like after like he kind of like kicks everyone's ass, uh, and then the scene like where he his girlfriend is like knocked down like 2 flights of stairs, which is like also super intense because that looks like it really fucking hurt.
Right, because it was on stairs too. It wasn't like she was landed on like some flat area. She like she rolls down the stairs and like goes over each one.
The other one that looked like it there's a couple things that looked like it really fucking hurt. The guy that he knocked down like from like a story above that he knocked down onto the escalator that like bounced a bunch of times, that looked like that really hurt. And what I heard is that like they because there's no cushion on it. It's all metal,
Yeah.
and there's no way they could cushion it. And
Mm.
even like the edges, the edges of the escalator, you know, sharp, but like
Yeah,
that
it'll
could
cut
really
you up.
cut you pretty bad.
Yeah, it'll cut you up.
They like put like steel rods and like under like clothing along with like some cutting before they threw him off.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
So that way, like he. But even then, that's gonna hurt. That looked like that hurt a lot.
Yeah, because it's not as though I mean I don't know what they did, but I'm pretty sure they probably didn't like pad those metal bars either. So it's like he's still landing on metal.
They could have.
Yeah, so he's still landing on
because
metal regardless.
Yeah, Jack even says like, yeah, this is hard. We had to pad him up. We couldn't like do it because normally we throw some sort of like cushioning somewhat like, on like where we're tossing this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, yeah, he took it hurt. But then like all those like he jumps down from like a story. He jumps from like a story onto a moving escalator, to like punch another guy, and it's just, oh god, that looks so painful. Like that's a high jump. But then we get to the final like crazy scene in the movie where he jumps from like the top story onto a pole and to the enemy. From what I understand, that scene he took a few hours because he was trying to work himself up. Where it's like, oh shit, I gotta jump. He's trying to like figure out and he's like,
Right.
oh shit, I'm gonna die. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm dead.
yeah, and that
this.
yeah, and again, thanks to your Citron account, I got to saw like that little featurette, and he was talking about he went through like that entire scene, and just like him like building up the nerve, and like him like realize him like when he was like working out the stuff where it's like it's not just like the pole's like right there. I have to like jump out like 6 feet to like grab onto that pole and then slide down. And like he was like and he was like doing it from like the very top of like the highest point of the shopping mall, and that was like a good what, like 8 stories or something.
Yeah, it was a big jump.
Right, and then also
and you even see like where he's like.
Yeah, and then also with the like the lights that he like comes like crashing through. It's like he was again he was like recounting. It's like, oh yeah, like we were gonna try to just like light up the lights with batteries, but it wouldn't have lasted long, and so we had to like plug the lights into like the electricity of the building, and like and that's like what that kind of amps like like he could have fried he could have fried himself.
He could have electrocuted him. And even as when he when he does climb up, when we see in the movie, he climbs up that pole, and you see him like pause for a second. Yeah, he psyching himself up to like that, and then he just slides down that pole. The light like tapping, breaking, and he ripped off half the skin on both of his hands. Making that slide down that metal hole, and he breaks through a whole bunch of other shit, and then he pops back up and he starts like fighting guys, and I'm just like, what a monster that Jackie Chan is. Because normally you just like make a whole bunch of cuts and shit. Mm-hmm. No, Jackie Chan did that by himself. We saw the whole thing. And he should be dead. He should be extremely injured. And yet he is not only doing the stunt, popping up, and he's doing more shit. And it's like, and you kind of see, when you do see a little bit of his hands, and they're all like bloody and shit. Oh my god. He really
right.
did.
I mean, yeah, like even when you see like his knuckles too, like they're like kind of bloodied. It's like, how the fuck does that happen?
It's intense. But that mall scene, that is one of the greatest fighting sequences I've seen in a movie in ever. I mean, we're gonna see, this month we're gonna see some great fighting scenes. This is one of the best. I would put this in my top 5 like best fight scenes. Is this mall scene in Police Story?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like where the movie ends.
Yeah.
And we get the, I to be honest, I love the theme of Police Story. It's so
Mm-hmm.
intense. We get like the great, like, during the credits, and plus, with the blooper reel, we get like, Jackie Chan singing like the Police Story song,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. And it's like, God, this guy can do everything. He sings, he acts, he directs, he does all the stunts.
He coordinates stunts.
Uh,
He's a man of many
yeah,
talents.
but this is really like this is the movie where Jackie Chan had done like, directing beforehand, but this is like the movie where he rediscovered himself and became the Jackie Chan that we all know and love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I really got to say about Police Story. I am I I really love this movie. This is such a good. It's not a complicated story, but it's a good story. The action is just otherworldly, and I'm so glad we finally got a chance to do this one.
Yeah, this is a fun movie.
Well, just out of curiosity, what was your first Jackie Chan film that you encountered, or that you remember like watching?
Um, I think it was Twin Dragons. I was very young at the time, and again I had the benefit
Oh wow!
of older cousins, and so I remember I was over one time and they're watching this movie, and it was about like two twins separated at birth. Of course, at the time I didn't realize it was Jackie Chan, but then um, I still remember like the basics enough uh, that when I was older, a little bit older, and I saw it again, Twin Dragons again, I was like, oh, I seen this movie, and like and happily enough, it was a Jackie Chan movie, and so yeah, that was my first exposure to Jackie Chan. It was that through the movie Twin Dragons, which again, like I think highlights his acting ability because he plays twins, and he plays essentially two different characters. So
Right. Yeah, I guess I'm like most Americans, like where Rush Hour is probably like the first film I remember him from,
mhm.
and I was like, who the hell is this? He's awesome. And that's like kind of like when I ended up watching like Drunken Master and like Drunken Master like 1 and 2. I'm trying to think like what else I watched of his. And but for whatever reason, I just never heard of Police Story. And one of the movie podcasts I listened to, they were talking about Police Story. I was like, this sounds amazing, and I couldn't wait to watch it. I was like, I gotta watch this. And
Mhm.
when I watched it, I was like, this is not only is like this is Jackie Chan at his prime, and we're seeing the pinnacle of his stunts. This is where because I like I said, Rush Hour was great, but you can definitely tell like this is not the same level that Jackie Chan was
Right,
at
because
in the
when
80s.
he did Rush Hour, he was already he become he was like in his middle aged, and so like he wasn't as fast, and he wasn't able to do as elaborate a stunt as he did like back in his Hong Kong days. But it was still very
Right.
enjoyable. and not everyone can have the benefit of having older cousins to introduce them to Hong Kong cinema. Uh, but
But yeah, like Rush Hour was like the movie that really got me into like more of like the martial arts kung fu films, and I kind of like I took a deep dive into it, and it's just like I didn't realize Police Story was part of that, uh, and it's just like wow, what a movie! I'm so glad I got a chance to watch this and we got to review it. Um, what would you give as a rating for Police Story? Was this your first watching of this, by the way?
no, I mean, because I know we watched it together, towards the end of last year. But I do, yeah, I do remember I again, one of those things where my cousins probably, exposed it to me because there was a lot of things. Because again, I saw it. Um, I think when I watched it with you, it was the first time I watched it in a very long time. Watching with you did
Right.
spark some memories. Uh, so I probably was exposed to it when I was much younger. But as for my rating, I
Have you
think
seen,
what?
have you seen any of the sequels? Like, I mean, I've seen the
No,
second one, but
that I
I
haven't.
haven't
No,
seen any. Okay,
no.
but this one you've seen.
Yeah, this one I've seen. Yeah, but as for my rating, yeah, I'd get this a 4.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5. This is like, it's, is it the best story in the world? That's ascended cinema. It's like screenplay. No, but it's a good enough story with otherworldly action. If you're looking for a good action movie, uh, you don't have to look very far from Police Story. It's so the action is insane, and if you like a little bit of comedy in your action movies, look no further than Police Story.
Yeah,
You get
I mean, well,
great
yeah,
physical comedy.
I can only rate it, from what I've seen, and so like yeah, as in the totality, yeah, I mean, story, wasn't the strongest. The acting was, I mean, granted, like because with a Jackie Chan movie, it's kind of a hodgepodge because you're gonna get your action, you're gonna get your, you're gonna get your what is it? Kind of almost bare bones kind of story structure. But yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to be entertained, and Police Story is definitely one of them. Um, and
I look at it as something like when maybe this is like kind of a moving target when it comes to our rating system. Look at does it accomplish what it was trying to do? It was great action, uh, great physical comedy, with a semi-decent story. Did it accomplish that? Absolutely. Is it the best story in the world? No. Is it a low-budget film? Yeah. But you also have like where Jackie Chan is overcoming all that and just becoming like this crazy physical stunt and everyman. It's just over, kind of like going over all those expectations, like just doing this crazy shit that no other man on the planet should be able to do, but he does. And yeah, does he get hurt? Yeah, he gets hurt along with a lot of other people in the movie. But man, it produces this great product. I will watch again and again and again because I think enough. It's so good.
all right, there you have it. That's our review for Police Story. Not both, but Rob gives it 4.5. I give it a 4. Definitely would recommend it. It should be on your, on your Jackie Chan watch list. Um, and you know, and you will. I promise you, you will enjoy it. because again, like you will not see stunts like this in modern movies. You just because of the way the world is now, and like with corporation and insurance and all that stuff, there's no way that you're gonna see action like that in modern movies today.
Never.
So yeah, so do yourself a favor and watch this, this beautiful ballet of choreography and stunt and really like just balls. Because like the stunts that that they did, like it takes balls to pull off. So do yourself a favor, get yourself a copy, uh, find it on whatever streaming platform that you have, but do yourself the pleasure of watching this movie.
Yeah, it's on Criterion right now on the Jackie Chan collection. If you have that, if you don't have that, you can find it on Amazon pretty easily. It's on there. I think it's on YouTube as well. So you can find it. But if you have the opportunity,
watch it in the original Cantonese Chinese. All right.
Yeah, like I said.
Again, and fair warning. If it's initially Cantonese will be very hard on your ears, so just be forewarned.
Yeah, if you can if you can get on Criterion, the streaming service that they have, not only are you gonna be able to watch the movie in the original Cantonese, you get all these great interviews with Jackie Chan, or people talking about Jackie Chan, or his actual documentary that Jackie Chan made about his son. So you'll get more than just the movie. You'll get Jackie Chan himself talking about police story and all the stuff that we kind of talked a little bit about tonight. You'll get it in full detail, and I can't recommend that enough.
All right, there you have it, folks. That's the stream for tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob has a good time. Don't forget to follow. Don't forget to check out. Don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. The Circle Jerk's main podcast, Untitled Transmissions, of course, and Garab's Gaming Show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter and Letterboxd @PodcastCOJ and Instagram @Circle Jerk's Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us. Come back next week and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.
Sounds good to me.